If everyone's ready, we'll start up. So, hello, and welcome to Pod of the Dead. On today's episode, it is Halloween, well, the day before Halloween, so we are going to be doing a double feature. On today's episode, we will be covering the 1973 film The Exorcist and the 1987 splatter horror film The Evil Dead 2. First off, we're going to cover The Exorcist. So what is your girls' history with it? Oh, wait, before that, I'm your host, Nicholas, and with me as always are the two beautiful ladies, Stephanie and Natasha.
Hello.
Hello.
So, what are your guys' history with the film The Exorcist?
This is my first time watching it. I know a lot about it. I know all of the, before watching it, I knew all of the, big scenes. I just didn't really have a lot of the context. So, yeah, first time around.
And I've seen this movie when I was younger. It scared the crap out of me when I was a kid. I was probably 11 when I saw it, 12
Damn.
when I saw it the first time. And then I think I saw it one other time after that. So this was my third watch through. So I wasn't sure how I'd feel about it now being in my late 30s. It was an interesting watch now, let's just say.
Yeah, this film historically goes down as something that I was introduced at a young age, 10-ish or
Really?
so, because this is one of our mom's favorite horror films when we were young. This and The Omen and stuff like that are ones that she always just puts on a high shelf. She likes that religious horror and stuff like that. So I remember, not that she showed me this movie, but I remember it being something that was mentioned. So I did see it at a young age. And for the longest time, I was, I still kind of stand by this, but I was like, there's no point in making any other Exorcist films, any films that deal with exorcism, because I felt that this movie tonally, does exactly what it should. Having watched this recently, this is probably the first time I've watched it in maybe 10 years. I might have a change of opinion on that. I like exorcism kind of stuff in films. I don't know if this has held up.
Really?
No.
But to me personally, I've seen it multiple times, and this was the first time that I was just kind of I don't know. At the very, I'm not going to give exactly what I said, but it's this movie is 120 minutes long. We didn't watch the director's cut, which is fine. We just watched, the director's cut adds a couple extra, creepy scenes, but it wouldn't be enough to change the scoring of the movie. But this movie's 120 minutes long, and I've got 20 minutes of killer and 100 minutes of filler. So it makes sense why that filler, it's all character motivated stuff and everything. And that 20-minute killer is the big payoff and everything. But at the end of the day, it's I really didn't need to sit here for 2 hours for that.
The movie could have been an hour and 20 minutes long, and it still would have been just as effective. And in talking about exorcism films, all you have to do is watch Constantine and get your fill, because that movie is so much better than this one.
But if this was a 20-minute short film and it was just the last 20 minutes, it would be a 10 out of 10 in my book, because it would be an amazing short film. But
yeah, it was a long payoff, a long storyline of bits and pieces. And
And the time frame is kind of hard to follow, in the sense where you're wait, is it tomorrow? Wait, has it been a week? Has it been? It just keeps pushing forward, and you're wait, so that's his mom? Oh wait, so mom's not? Oh wait, hold on.
Yeah, and then, that was a struggle.
But that's kind of the times we're we're comparing this to to movies from nowadays and stuff. Like, this is 1973, so we're talking around the time of The Godfather and stuff like that. And all that aside, it's beautifully shot and everything. Like, for 1973, I think it's beautifully shot. So, like, I come from it from a different standpoint than you girls will.
Yeah,
and
definitely
stuff, so.
do not agree with any of that. So no.
Not even the beautifully shot?
No. No.
I agree with it's the time, because it's a very slow movie, which hits on with The Godfather. So
Yeah, Godfather,
with that.
Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, but in the 70s, did they just go, hey, we want to make these movies that are longer than they should be so we can make you sit in your seat for longer and draw out storylines in order to make you fall asleep? Because I have to wonder if, like, that's not the point. Because, like, there's other movies that came out in the 70s that don't do that. They weren't horror movies, obviously, but, like, you're looking at, like, Grease. That came out in the 70s. And
Are we seriously comparing The Exorcist to Grease
I think
right
that's
now?
what's happening.
yeah, well, Grease is better than The Exorcist. I'm sorry. So
I mean, John Travolta is horrific.
no, he is,
so.
well, in Face Off, maybe that movie does not hold up. So
Oh, it holds up. Don't you dare besmirch Face
it's
Off.
terrible. But no, I'm serious. Like, this movie was like this I had such high hopes that I was going to love this. And I was like, oh, I remember all the iconic scenes growing up. And I was like, I think that, maybe it's going to pull itself out. And as I'm sitting there, I have in my notes, like, and I took quite a few pages of notes where I'm just writing the letter Z, 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 because I'm just falling asleep. Like, this is...
Oh, I thought you were like
ZZ Top.
ZZ
Yeah.
Top.
No, it was just... No.
And I literally fell asleep during it.
Yeah,
So.
exactly.
But that's not a gold standard
That's
of
true.
a film. Like, there's
Very true.
like, that's not even
That's true.
fair.
I'm just letting you know, it did its job. If its job was, like Steph said, to make people fall asleep.
Yeah.
Job well done, Exorcist.
Yeah.
I can't wait for Mom to hear this and just scream
Yeah.
at us, be like, "How could you fall asleep against that's
We have,
just
to, we
horrifying."
have to think about, she grew up in the 70s around the time this came out. So, like, this is her, this is our 90s to her. So,
Yeah.
like, this is her iconic film. So, like, we love a lot of stuff from the 90s and early 2000s because it's nostalgia for us. And so this probably hits The Omens the same way to her. And actually, if I remember, I did see The Omen back in the day, and I actually liked that better than I ended up liking this. And maybe it doesn't hold up again. Like, I don't plan on watching it again anytime soon because, again, Snoozeville. So
I like the Omen. I think I like this more because I think its payoff is better than the Omen's payoff and stuff. But I think that the Omen is paced better than this because you're getting more of that stuff throughout the film instead of just waiting for the last 20 minutes.
yeah,
of this
I mean,
film.
you do get some payoff throughout the movie a little bit, but it's like I would say like
Sparse.
30-second blips, and then you're like, oh, this is cool, and then you're just going back to, like, I got to the point where I was like staring at my paper and then looking up at the thing, and I'm like, is something X gonna happen? Like, give me something.
Yeah.
It was an easy movie to take notes with all of its expository, like, dialogue and stuff like that in slow pace. I was able to put my pen down from time to time. Unlike the Evil Dead 2, I had to keep pausing it because it was just like, oh shit, all this stuff's
Well,
happening.
that's the difference between, it's like you go from, like, since we're doing a double feature here, we're going from a movie that makes you want to fall asleep to a movie that is like a crazy fever dream extravaganza that's just like, it was insanity times 1,000, and I've never seen that movie. So going into watching Snoozeville and then going into that movie and then just going, what the fuck? It's a different feel, definitely. So I like the dichotomy between the two watching this week just because of how fucking different they were.
Well, and they're both demonic possession films too.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
That's true. We have two sides of the same coin with this episode. That's why I kind of pair them
So
together.
if you guys don't want to fall asleep and you don't want to listen to the Exorcist stuff, just fast forward because our notes might even make you fall asleep because it is that fucking boring. And it is. It's so boring. This is the only movie we have watched that has made me want to just not even talk about it because it's that boring.
Steph, I was right there
No,
with you
Buffy.
too. This one was tricky. At least for Buffy, I was like infuriated about it,
Correct.
how ridiculous it was.
Yes.
But then you have The Exorcist that's touted as being like one of the greatest horror movies ever, and it has all of this art and blah blah blah. And I don't care.
Nope. No. Well, and I wanted to have a relationship with some of these characters, and I'm like watching it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm building a relationship
can't.
with them to a degree. Yeah, but it's just like, but it's one of those there's one of those relationships where it's like they're a long distant relative you don't want to see, and that's how I felt about them. And it was like, I have no relationship with these characters. I don't care about them. I don't like this movie. Like, and I was so sad about that because everywhere you go around, everybody's like, The Exorcist is classic. It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, if this is not a movie I would recommend to my kids to watch, just because, and not because of the content, because yes, it does have some dark content. Like, she does masturbate with a crucifix. I know we haven't had spoiler warnings, but
Hell
if it's
yeah.
but it's 1973 from the movie's made in 1973. If you have not fucking heard of this movie and anything at this point, then I'm sorry, you're living under a rock. But
And the book that it's based on came out just a few years prior and stuff, so it's not like the book had been out for a long time and everything. But let's tell the people what this movie is,
yeah.
Tasha.
Go for it, Tasha.
The Exorcist is a 1973 American supernatural horror film directed by William Friedkin from a screenplay by William Peter Blatty, based on his 1971 novel of the same name. The film stars Ellen Burstyn, Max von Sydow, Jason Miller, and Linda Blair. The story follows a demonic possession of a young girl and her mother's attempt to rescue her through an exorcism by 2 Catholic priests.
And that's our review of the film.
And
so.
we're done.
Yeah. You will. You'll wish. Yes, you'll wish that.
Not really. I mean, come on, guys. Well, this is why the film is touted as a classic and being so influential and stuff like that. Okay, so this kind of started the trend of like the possession films to this
And I
degree.
will give it that.
So
yeah.
So its budget was $12 million. So to count for inflation, if that were made today, that's $82 million.
No.
Wow.
Now
What's
listen.
that in relation
Now listen.
to? Like
What do you
other
mean?
movies. Like that seems like an extreme amount of money.
$82 million as a film
Yeah.
today.
Any idea?
I bet you that like one of the even the later John Wick films probably less than that.
Wow.
Like none of your big budget action films would be that, because like the Fast and the Furious and all that, those would be. But like for a horror film, I bet you that like the new Saw that came out.
Okay.
I'm looking at.
I guarantee that's probably.
Go ahead. Keep talking.
Steps
Okay.
on it.
I bet you that's like in the $50 million range or something like that. But you have to also understand that it made its money back, and I'll explain. So $12 million, inflation 82. What do you think its box office is?
150 million.
150 million. You got anything, Steph? How much money do you think this movie made in
$1.
theaters?
Oh my god.
It made $441.3 million dollars.
Wow. Dang.
Which towards inflation, that's $3.05 billion this film has made over its lifetime in the box office. Something to keep in mind, though, this is a film that gets re-released in the theaters multiple times, that has all sorts of things. So this wasn't like its opening run. It has made, but in box office, it has raked in the equivalent of a film coming out now to basically $3 billion.
Well, the thing is, you had to think about, though, is that movies didn't come out as readily as they do now either. So, like, you're only getting a horror movie that's a bigger budget once a year or whatever in comparison to now.
Oh, yeah.
But also, here, you were way off with your budget. So how much was the budget? How much was the budget to make that movie in that time?
In that time, $12 million in 1973.
Saw X that just came out was $13 million now.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an exponential difference. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It says 13 million in the box office. It was their budget. It says, and then the movies. Oh, hold on. With a $13 million budget. Oh, hold on. I'll just have to read. Keep going.
Yeah, you're good. So, but yeah, like this movie is insanely popular. When it comes to that, whether popularity doesn't necessarily mean quality to everyone. Like, I'm a prime example of that when it comes to a lot of things. Just because it's popular doesn't mean it's good. But
Yeah.
I mean, and you girls are the example in today's episode for
I
that.
equate this movie to like having to read certain classic novels just like
Yes.
to have
Okay.
read it. That's how I see this movie.
Yeah. I get that. Like, and I think that that's kind of important in the sense of like, if you haven't seen this film and then you watch an exorcism film that came out in the 80s or 90s, you're like, that's amazing, but it's actually just aping everything from The Exorcist.
Yep.
It kind of like, if you haven't seen The Exorcist, you don't get like, that's actually not a good movie because it's just stealing everything from this previous film. And that's usually my problem with exorcism films, is because it's like, yeah, but they fucking did that like 50 years ago.
But the idea of exorcism isn't like wholly all like aligned with The Exorcist. I mean, this is based in like actual historical data, so you can't say that you're aping it from a movie if it's actually something that exists. Well, in that lore,
I think some of the tropes are like being stuck
Correct.
in a bed and the voice and things like that. It's all the same in every movie. And I wonder if that what you're
Visual
talking
representations.
about, Nick?
Yeah, not just the act of an exorcism, because I mean everything's pulling from everything. I'm talking about the visual cues and the
bed stuff and things like that.
Yeah, all the head spinning and the like, because even like when they put out the trailer for the new, was it Exorcist Believer or whatever, I like rolled my eyes so hard. I'm like, this looks like meh, like because it just looks like retreading of what has come before. Then I watched The Exorcist and was kind of rewatched it rather, and was just kind of like, you know what, maybe I'll give it a shot. And then I heard like reviews were like garbage on it, so it's like, well, I'll watch it when it comes to streaming because I don't want to sit through 2 hours of a film that I was already hesitant about, and then people like that I know, and I'm not talking about big like critics or anything, just people that I know that I respect their opinions on films were just kind of like, yeah, no, it's not, it wasn't that good. So it's like, okay, I will still check it out, but I'm not like chomping at the bit to see it. But let's see here. We will
spoiler warnings.
go ahead. Yep, we'll go ahead and throw up that spoiler warning. So if you've been living under a rock and you haven't seen The Exorcist, now's your time to step out for a smoke and, go watch The Exorcist for 2 hours and come join us and see if you agree with me or if you agree with the girls, because the girls and I are not going to agree on this movie.
Because if they leave for 2 hours, they're going to be asleep for the next 8 because they're going to fall asleep on the couch. So we'll see you in 8 hours, and you can come back and talk and listen to the rest of our episode.
Just make sure that the episode keeps running, so then we get to listen, and then you come back and listen again. Because we're creeping on that 100 listens right now. That. So we're almost there. All right. Woo-woo. So spoiler warnings down. Here we go. The Exorcist from 1973 starts in northern Iraq, and they are excavating a buried city.
Reviews.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Reviews.
You've done this the last couple weeks.
Come on, producer.
I know.
You just jumped the gun.
I know.
Man.
Hey, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get through this one for you guys. We're
helping you. So, all right, Tasha, okay. I want you to read the 10 out of 10 because I can't wait to read this 1 out of 10 that I have. So I don't know what it says, but you go for it.
The 1 out of 10s are always beautiful.
They are.
All right. 10 out of 10. Unmatched brilliance. There is a reason for the hysteria and
Uh-oh, we're losing you.
Uh-oh. Tasha's cutting out.
Did you leave the chat?
Surrounding The Exorcist, and it's called...
Tasha. You're cutting out like the entire. Yep, it's okay. We'll try this again.
I don't know what else to do, guys.
Yep.
Just start the review over.
Give us. Yep, start the review over, and if it happens to be the way that it is, then I'll just I'll send Steph both of them, and she can.
You don't have to do that, because then everybody will just know that it was a 10 out of 10 that was crap, because this movie's crap, and we'll be fine. It's okay. Go for it.
See, we're
because
cursed.
God's
we're cursed in here,
God
so we can't do the 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Oh God.
All right.
All right. Let's try this again.
Okay.
Yep.
Unmatched brilliance. There's a reason for the hysteria and mystique surrounding The Exorcist, and it's called genius. Never have I seen a film matched in shock, terror, writing, or performance. This isn't a horror movie. The film itself is both a moving and terrifying drama that takes a realistic look at what would actually happen if a young girl were possessed in modern America. William Peter Blatty's script is amazing, bringing depth to the characters and presenting the mystery of faith that they all deal with. Is Regan possessed? Is she insane? And most importantly, is there a God? And in this course of 2 hours, we will see a sweet and innocent girl become a cross-master. I'm sorry. That's doing so good.
Yeah, you are.
That's doing so good.
By that word, I know what you're going to say. Go for it.
A young girl become a cross-masturbating, head-spitting, murderous creature. We see a successful actress overcome skepticism to save her daughter and see a brilliant psychiatrist struggle with his devotion to...
Oh, we lost her again. So we know that this 10 out of 10 review...
Priest.
Yep,
Friedkin's direction is Mark. Gone?
Yeah, you broke up again.
All right.
We got through cross masturbation.
There are 2 more paragraphs. Should I keep going?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
But we got the point. Like 10 out of 10 for cross masturbation, I think is what they're saying.
And in the end, it makes us ask ourselves what we believe and keeps us wondering, shuddering at exactly what might be out there.
There you go.
There we go.
We'll at least end on that.
Yep.
There you go. So we're having some technical difficulties today on our episode, mostly because of weather and stuff. It's really windy, which is cutting with internet. So keep that in mind, listener. So we got the gist of that.
Yep, we covered the things that were important, I think. So this is my 1 out of 10 for The Exorcist. This is very long, so we will see how this plays out, I guess. Ooh, okay. Purists may enthuse about the lack of modern day special effects, but what they fail to mention is that without these, The Exorcist captures all the excitement of an insurance seminar without an interlude.
Okay.
They literally just said insurance seminar. They must have some personal experience here. Okay.
It's very specific.
It is. To dispute with the purists, not all supernatural movies are spoiled. They didn't spell that right. I hate when people do this. They said spoilt. That's not a word, guys. SPOILT is not a word.
No.
Spoilt. They must be Southern or something, maybe. That might be like a dialect for them or something. Anyway, not all supernatural movies are spoilt with the dabbling of special effects. With a premise not entirely different from The Exorcist, Poltergeist succeeded in enthralling an audience with the discerning use of garish effects and yet still managed to work up searing tension in the quieter moments. See, I've never seen the Poltergeist, so I don't know. They think the Poltergeist... No, but I think they think it's better. You don't know?
I don't know.
Not that any amount of editing would have brought this decaying carcass to life, but the movie... What the... They're good. I like this review.
The decaying carcass of an insurance seminar.
Yeah. To life, but the movie would have been better served missing the entire prologue where we were treated to Max von Sydow ambling along dusty passageways, whilst looking horrified at finding some cheap bauble from a Christmas cracker.
They're British. I think the reviewer is British.
Maybe.
I want to know where this movie touched them because they've got some trauma from this movie.
But I agree with them about the beginning because that's like a good 15 to 20 minutes of the movie, and like you're sitting there going, "Why are we like?" We watched Scream. The entrance of that movie is brilliant. Then even like Trick or Treat and all the other most of the movies we've watched have had really good intros. This is like the Snorefest intro of Snorefests.
Yeah, I don't think it was needed.
No.
Yeah.
That being said, though, you're comparing an iconic intro of Scream to a film that's not known for its intro. If you compare the end of Scream to this, I think The Exorcist has a far better last 20 minutes than Scream.
But would you rather? Okay, so let's put this into context. Then I'll get back to the review. Okay, so when you read a book and you open up a book and you read the first 5 pages, are you going to stick with reading that book if it's shit and it's boring you? No, you're going to put that book down.
I don't read books because books are for nerds.
That's okay.
Well, I wouldn't do that stuff.
I wouldn't either.
Wouldn't read a book because I read books.
Me too.
Because y'all are both nerds. No, I read, but like I get what you're saying, but at the same time, like we're not talking about books.
But we are, because this is based off a fucking book.
Fair point.
I'm not listening to it.
Like that's the whole point of this.
Yeah, but
okay.
No, it's
anyway,
not.
I'm going on.
No, you don't know what you're talking about, nerds.
What is happening?
This is the guy with Grandmaster Shake in his back, like in the back of his thing over here, talking about being nerds.
Goddamn right.
Oh, look, there's mankind in his film. We got lots of mankind shit. Oh, Leatherface.
Leatherface.
Yeah, we're the nerds.
Okay. Yeah. Over here, there's a bunch of D&D manuals. Those are books. I read those books.
Yeah. Okay, so without a doubt, this so-called masterpiece was surpassed by all others in exploiting the event movie. The event movie. Okay. It seems that by succeeding in getting a film withdrawn on its initial release in time, it can become regarded as a classic. Oh, so was this banned when it first was released?
They talked about
there's a huge pushback from the religious organizations and stuff banning this film. I think maybe when it originally got when it was put up for ratings and stuff, it was originally given an X rating. So,
so that's why it's also made this so popular, because the whole banned books thing or banned movies thing gives it that tantalizing.
Well, it also
beat. Okay.
It also had an amazing marketing campaign after right before it came out and stuff. So I've got a little bit about that. But,
okay.
Yeah.
So it says, however, underwhelming it may be, or as a classic, however, underwhelming it may be, simply by throwing in a few blasphemous expletives by a minor, this movie has been hailed as an icon of a horror genre. Classic status should only be awarded to pictures which have stood the test of time. Judging by the laughter from the audience at my screening, The Exorcist has not been able to sustain any fear factor 25 years later, if it ever did at all. For those salivating over their first screening of this horror behemoth, prepare yourself for the fact that it plays about as frightening as an episode of Scooby-Doo. In the case of The Exorcist reissue, the event is undoubtedly bigger than the movie. So the works by designing. I'm still not done. I got one more. I got one more paragraph.
Well,
Jesus.
I do want to comment on where they're saying that it's not scary now, and it probably wasn't scary then. You're talking about this is kind of one of the things that helped spark the satanic panic. This film scared the absolute living fuck out of people.
It scared me when I was a kid. So
thing I know about this movie. Yeah. And I think that helps with the allure and why that box office number is probably so high, is because people heard what was happening and they're like, oh shit, I have to go see this.
Yep.
Yeah, they definitely, like, with their marketing, they, like, leaned into the taboo things of it that piqued people's interest into going. This is also, like, one of the first films that, like, they used the marketing of people passing out in the theater, people getting sick watching the film, and all this stuff is like, is this film too extreme? And then Tony Hawk does a kickflip over the film, you know, like, because it's extreme. The Exorcist brought to you by Baja Blast.
Nobody passed out in the film. They fell asleep, and then they woke up at the last 20 minutes.
Oh, Jesus. Maybe the ushers had it confused. They're like, all these people are passing out.
They just needed their nap, and they're doing it in the theater, and then they're going to watch the last 20 minutes of the film, which is, it's actually really good, but the rest of it is just not. So, okay.
I think we have to have an interview with Mom to see what her thoughts were when she first saw it back in the 70s.
I agree, because that's probably a bigger input.
Yeah.
I thought about doing that, like doing a scripted interview, like 20 questions kind of interview with Mom, just about her history with horror.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Doing that, like when we start like a Patreon and stuff, having that like as a Patreon kind of.
Okay, so here's my last paragraph. Please don't consider these views solely a ranting from an upstart of the MTV generation. Oh, so they're our age. There are many horror movies made in the pre-Wes Craven era which have maintained classic status through the test of time and are still capable of terrifying today's audience. Not just those who saw it way back then and still harbor fond memories. With that in mind, special message to Gus Van Sant. You didn't need to waste your talents on a shot-for-shot remake of Psycho. If you really wanted to challenge yourself, you could have concentrated on creating something resembling an effect of Chiller from this overhyped pap.
Okay, so in their review, they're also taking a shot at the Psycho remake, which I completely agree. That film fucking sucks balls, because they're just like, hey, let's get what's his fucking name, Vince Vaughn, to play the lead in Psycho. It's so bad, and it is a shot for shot remake. So just watch the original on that one. But yeah,
that last paragraph felt like the guy was done with his review and then walked out and then walked back in and was like, and it was something else that bothers me.
And one more thing, Gus Van Sant, you can suck my entire ass
while I'm here.
Sir, this is an Arby's.
Oh my gosh, okay.
All right. So, before I was so rudely interrupted with these reviews, we start the film in northern Iraq, where we see they're excavating a buried city. Boy in a red head wrap runs to find a man, and when he comes to find him, they are digging up some small things, some arrowheads, some coins. And it's not from the same time period as these ruins, which they don't really talk about much anymore past that point. They make that mention, but they don't talk about
shocker.
But in the hole, the man finds an idol or an artifact. And then we cut to him sitting at a restaurant, and he's taking some meds, visibly shaking.
He's taking nitroglycerin because he's putting it under his tongue. Yeah, he has heart problems, which gets alluded to later in the movie. But it doesn't tell you shit, because nothing tells you shit. Okay, so it's just like you have to guess.
2 hours of conversations. Well, an hour and 40-minute of conversations never really fulfill this, because I was like, he's on med. Like,
so he's he's drinking coffee or tea, and he's sitting there and he's taking it out of that little pill case and he's sticking under his tongue, and that's nitroglycerin goes in and it goes directly to your heart. It helps with all of that, and then at the end of the movie, it makes sense as to why things end up the way they end up.
Because he's a bitch.
Because he's
can't
old.
Hang with
he's
the devil.
Old.
He's got a bad heart, man. We gotta answer people with bad hearts.
Yep.
Get your old balls and your bad heart out of here. All right. So we then cover to some men working at a forge, and this old guy is walking around looking like shit. Cut to, like, I was trying to write out what I'm seeing in these scenes, because it's literally just following this guy walking around Iraq. Yeah. We cut to the man looking at the idol and says, evil versus... Oh, this is while he's in what looks like maybe a university or something.
Yeah,
like
they're
that.
doing records on artifacts.
Yep, and he says evil versus evil. Then the clock stops.
Evil again. It was evil against evil. Yeah.
Okay. Men praying as the man leaves the building and as he's walking through a tunnel market. That I liked that. I thought that was kind of neat looking. Like, I do remember
But it
while we were
makes
watching.
no sense.
It's not that it doesn't make no sense. It's just
That's
not
what I'm saying.
necessary.
It doesn't have any
Exactly.
bearing on the entire story plot. And then you're starting this whole movie out with a storyline that doesn't have anything to do with the story.
Well, it does.
Not
because
really.
This is
You could have done that.
this is the guy that shows up at the end.
Yeah, but you don't actually need any of that.
I don't know. I do remember watching this part and going like, I mean, not right now because of like political stuff and everything and war and like stuff, but I'd like to go to Iraq and check out all these ruins. That would be neat. It worked on that point.
Yeah, but not on the plot building.
It played like an Indiana Jones movie at the beginning.
Kind of, yeah. That's true. Like finding a treasure. Yeah.
So as he walks the street, he looks worse for wear and almost gets smoked by a horse-drawn carriage. As he pulls up in a Jeep, he is greeted by two men with AK-47s that then just walk away. So, okay. Like, it's a lot of that. Like, I do agree to the fact that all of this didn't need to be as long. I do feel, though, that, like, you could have had him finding the, like, relic kind of thing. Give a little bit of him taking his meds and then jumping.
Yeah, it literally
No.
could have taken 3 minutes of the movie to open it, kind of give you like that prologue feel, and then move on to the actual plot. And it didn't do that.
But this, again, is the problem sometimes books have when they get developed into a movie and stuff, is that they feel, and this was also produced by the author.
And he is
So,
too
the author
connected
produced
to
this
his
film.
storyline because it cannot be connected in the movie and
Correct.
all of that. Because he could have built that whole first of the book just talking about this character and building a relationship with him and then bringing him in. And it might have been interesting. Obviously, it wasn't enough to make a film. But it doesn't. It's not a great adaptation, if that's the case.
Yeah, like that's probably where the waters get muddied a little bit, is Blatty's involvement with the film being the
Yeah, that's not
producer.
good.
So that's kind of an interesting thing to think. So this guy wrote the book, and it must have done really well. He made all this money, and then he himself was just like, "This needs to be a fucking movie."
Yeah, and that's great because like that's a really cool thing to have come to film. But at the same time, it's like you have to know where to cut corners. You have to know where you don't need to build.
Yeah.
You just need to be able to pull in your viewership.
Well, that's where Friedkin comes in. Like, Friedkin just passed away, like, within the last month or so and everything, and he's, like, heralded as, like, an amazing director and stuff like that. I still believe that this film is shot amazingly, especially for the 70s and everything. The things that they were able to pull off and everything, I really
In
like
the bedroom.
dramatic
Yes.
camera work and
That's
stuff.
it.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
bed. Well,
No,
really?
nowhere
Really?
else. No.
You don't think that anything? You don't think that any of the stuff just involving Karras outside, like in his dormitory
No.
kind of area, and I really like all that stuff. Like, my favorite character in this movie is Father Karras.
Yeah, I like
because
him.
You get to you watch this person who has essentially said that he's afraid of the fact that he's lost his faith, and he's a priest and everything, and you're watching him battle, like, it's Pazuzu is the name of the demon. You don't get it in this movie. You get it in the second movie. The name's dropped, but it is in the book referred to as Pazuzu. So I thought that was
So
kind
is
of
he
cool.
actually a psychiatrist also, or is he just a priest acting
Yes.
as he? I think that like dichotomy, I think is the right word,
Yeah.
duality. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's really interesting because you don't like that's not a common thing to be practicing in the sciences
Sure.
and in religion. So I like that component of it.
It is in Catholicism. Catholicism has a lot of like these like interesting things that you wouldn't think would cross and stuff like that. Like, they have like areas in the church that are priests that legitimately work on like the possibility of aliens and shit like that. Like, it's interesting, as fucking horrible as the Catholic Church is for a multitude of reasons. There are some interesting things to be found within that.
Okay.
So we cut to him outside the city, and he sees a large statue that resembles the idol he unearthed, and we see two dogs fighting nearby. I wasn't 100% sure if they were just dogs or if they were like jackals or something, because you don't see them for very long, and Steph was like, no, they're dogs.
Yeah, but again...
Okay, why?
Why? Yeah. Like...
I don't know.
Yeah, just sets the tone of anger.
Of sleeping.
We also, though, this is something that we have, I think I mentioned to you, Steph, right after we finished watching it, we have the, what's the word? The privilege of having seen this movie before, knowing what the film was about before we ever saw it. I can only imagine how much of a slap in the face this film was if you didn't know what you're in for.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, but
in the 70s, yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, it was already getting hyped up like exponentially in the 70s of like, this is what you're getting thrown into. So yeah, the tone of movies back then were definitely not in the same realm or the quality that they have now. So like, yes, that in itself, because didn't Star Wars come out in the 70s too? So like, you're getting all of that unique build of different worlds, and Indiana Jones, I think, came out then. So
80s.
like, you're getting Indiana Jones is 80s. Okay, so we're similar, but yeah, like I don't know. I think it's kind of, yes, it's dramatic for that time period, but at the same time, it's like they already built it up when they were releasing the movie because it almost got banned.
Yeah, like, I mean, I'll get more into a lot of that stuff like on my actual review of it, but like we're reviewing it from 2023 eyes.
Yeah.
So
I try to keep myself like what it would be like back then, and it's so hard to.
That's fine. Like, I'm the one that will definitely do that because that's where like the elitist scum kind of comes from. It's like, what you guys don't understand is when this came up as I'm pushing my glasses like through my skull, like, well, actually, you know, and then you guys keep me grounded, and you're like, it's dog shit. You scum. But we then cut to the mom to no longer Iraq. We're in the United States. We cut to mom taking notes, and she hears a noise. She believes it might be in the attic. So she goes and checks on her daughter, who's asleep, but the window is open. We cut to the morning, and she lets Carl know that there are rats in the attic.
Yep, and they need traps.
So then we cut to a film set where we find that mom works there. It's later kind of given that she's an actress, that she's been an actress for a while, and I guess is a pretty popular one. And we see a young priest in the crowd. Mom plays her scene, yelling into a bullhorn amongst some people, and we follow the young priest as he leaves. The mom decides to walk home, and we hear the theme song from The Exorcist play, which I believe is called like Tubular Bells, and it's very, very iconic when it comes to movie scores in general. I thought it played so much more in this film than it does.
I think it's twice.
Yeah,
maybe?
it's like twice, and it's not much. Like, I thought it played more like the theme from Halloween, where it's just like in your face, and it's not. It's very like tucked back and subdued. As she walks home, she sees the young priest talking to another person, but can't quite hear them because of the sound of a jet. We now meet Reagan as she tells her mom about her day at school and about a gray horse that she saw, and she wants a horse. Like, you're kind of like, you meet this girl and she's a very sweet young girl. You see the mother-daughter relationship, and it's like extremely like sweet. It's like the best way for me.
They play up her innocence more than normal, I think, in this movie. Like, almost like she's even younger than what she is. I think, like, the way that she talks, the way that her mannerisms are, she doesn't portray her age bracket, in my opinion. I think she plays about 2 to 3 years younger than what she technically is, at least from my perspective. I think they're just doing this in the acting in this movie just to kind of play up what happens later to make it that much of a difference.
Well, when it comes to the book, I don't know right off the rip what her age is supposed to be in the book, and if they were trying to find an actress that's younger than Linda Blair at this time to then do what she's going to do and say what she's going to say in this film, because not all of it's voiced over and stuff. A lot of it is Linda Blair's voice saying some just I cannot imagine like hearing this stuff in 1973.
She's supposed to be 12.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she's supposed to be 12 in the book.
Okay.
It says, yeah.
Okay, yeah, she definitely plays it more
8.
like
Yeah.
8.
Yeah. Like, I want a horror.
And even just how she talks, and how she talks about it and how she's just kind of like feigning into it. That I thought her acting was subpar.
We're also comparing a 12-year-old from 1973 to a 12-year-old in 2023,
That's
and those are far different.
That's true,
kids.
but again, it's still the like, do they talk like babies and like have that very like over emphasized innocence at 12, even in 1973? I don't think so. I mean, our moms were, my mom.
I was going to say, we'll have to talk to mom and dad because like dad would have been like 10 or so around that time, and mom would have been about 8. So it's like, do you know, like, does her actions and stuff? Okay. So they have a very playful, loving relationship, it seems. And then it cuts to the young priest waiting for a train as a homeless man asks for some help for an old altar boy. So you're seeing like the struggles of people that have like fallen out of the eyes of God or something like that. I'm not sure what they're trying to say with this part. And then the young priest walks home, a very small, dark apartment that I thought was his home, but it turns out this was his mother's home. And it's adorned with trophies and pictures. And he finds his mama sitting alone. He takes care of her and says that I can take you somewhere. You can be safe and taken care of. And she's like, this is my home. I'm not going anywhere. She asks if he's happy, and he says he's fine.
This is also the point where Mama's like, my brother, your uncle, came and visited me last month because we talked about this when we were watching the movie because you didn't understand what was going on. And she mentions this in there because it plays later into the movie in a hospital scene.
Yeah, and my confusion with it and stuff, like for like literally like taking notes and watching, is because of like the time jumps. There is no understanding, like, so you don't know when possession starts and when it ends, or when it, how long it progresses for, because the other parts that come into this movie, like the doctors and stuff, that's not the snap of your fingers. This takes time. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, so like when they're like all the stuff with the mom feels like it's over the course of 3 days, but at the same time, it's like with the stuff that's going on, it's months. Like months.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So like that's my main problem with the film is like it doesn't need to just be like 3 weeks later, 2 weeks later. It doesn't need to do the bird box thing in giving me stuff. But at the same time, it does an absolutely horrendous job of letting you know that, like, this isn't the same day. This is, like, maybe a year later. So we cut to Reagan doing arts and crafts down in their basement, and Mom finds a Ouija board and asks where it came from, and Reagan says that she found it. Mom's going to show her how to use it and everything, but Reagan says that she's messed with it before, and Captain Howdy has told her no, not that her mom shouldn't show her. And she asks Captain Howdy with it, it's like, do you think my mom is pretty? And stuff like that. And it's like, oh, that's a horrible thing to say and everything. Because, like, I guess Captain Howdy, who is Pazuzu, the thing that she is speaking to is the thing. But this is all things that I know from research. It's not given to you.
Yeah, I had to Google like what's the significance of the Ouija board, and then it was like explicitly said like it could have been cool if there was some type of tie.
Yeah, they don't really explain that.
Lay watcher.
It doesn't explain. Like, this is another one of those, just like when I first watched the movie and I was talking about Captain Howdy, I just thought she had an imaginary friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because like forever, I knew Captain Howdy in this movie as just being the like white face that appears in the film, and it was through that I found out, it's like, oh, that itself is Pazuzu. That's the thing that is possessing her and everything. It's not given to you at all. And that's stuff that's probably left out through the book and stuff like that. But so we let's see here. Reagan says mom can bring Burke around because mom likes him. They start talking about mom, are you happy? Are you dating someone? Like, do you love him like you love dad and everything? And mom says, I like pizza, but I'm not going to marry it, which I thought was a good line because she's like, I like Burke, but I also like pizza, and I ain't marrying Burke, because she's asking like, so are you going to marry Burke, who is the director of the movie that she's in? Again, it took a lot to like draw these lines together. Even watching this for the nth time, like I had to be like, wait, okay, this is that character. This is that.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
We then cut to the young priest at a bar, and Ramblin' Man is playing in the background, which I was like, oh, here we go, Ramblin' Man. But he's talking. I have so many notes. They're just young priest, old priest.
Yes.
And then I had to put a key at the top of my page and stuff. It's like young priest is Karis, like all that kind of stuff. But so basically, Karis is talking to an older priest about getting reassigned, but he's told he's the best they have for the job. So he's basically just getting wore down with his job here in the city and stuff like that, and just wants to go somewhere else. And he's like, Tom, I think I've lost my faith. Like, this is like all this work that I'm doing and stuff, and not seeing any good outcomes and stuff is really severing my ties with God. Which, like, this is what I love about this movie, is Karis's journey through the film. And it's really, really sad about the actor who plays Father Karras. I'll get into it a little bit later, but he passed away not too long after this film was made, under kind of like freak circumstances and stuff, I believe, because this film is one of those movies that's considered like a cursed film. All sorts of like bad things had happened during the shooting of this film and like during its release and stuff like that. But I really love Father Karras's character in this. I think aside from the iconic performance of Linda Blair as Regan, Karras is my boy. So we then cut to mom. She's on the phone and she is pissed that her ex-husband hasn't called her daughter for her birthday. She's just losing her absolute shit on the operator. And then we cut to nighttime and the phone rings. Mom answers it and it's work. So she gets up and she wakes up and rolls over, and Reagan is in her bed and says that her bed was shaking and she couldn't sleep. And then mom hears rats in the attic again. So she goes up to check, and she takes a candle up with her with dramatic lighting. And I like all this stuff, like all this scene and stuff, the tension of, like, I really like this. So this is where like my liking of the direction and stuff for this is up there. Like, I really I like this.
This was kind of lost on me. It was just a scene. I didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, they go up and they show you some rat traps that aren't full, that they're empty. And so they're like showing that they bought the traps.
No, they're showing the traps and they haven't been triggered.
Yeah.
They're nothing's up there.
That's what I just
They're showing
said,
that they're... Oh, well, when you were saying they weren't filled, I thought you meant they weren't filled with
they're empty.
bait.
There's no rats. And so, because she told Carl to put rat traps up there, and Carl put the rat traps up there, and now she's going to investigate, and there's not rats. So obviously, this is just alluding to the same thing that we're getting to, essentially.
But yeah, she keeps hearing the sound while she's up there, and then the flame of her candle gets huge and goes out. She gasps, and then we cut to the church. Beautiful flowers are being put up as we see the Mother Mary vandalized with rockin' tits and a swinging dick.
Yep. That happened. At that point, I thought it was like, okay, now we're picking up.
Me too, but
And now it's going to be like this for the rest of the movie. And
it wasn't.
Well, it is kind of like this for the rest of the movie. Like, if like this wasn't exciting, you just saw something.
Exactly. We
And
just
then
saw
it
something, and I thought we were going to see more. But go ahead, continue.
Yeah. No, you're good. So we cut to Karis in the psych ward, I thought.
Yeah.
Because this is where the timing gets kind of messed up, and
Again,
we see his mother, and he's gonna take her out of here, but his uncle had put her there just to deal with her because it was too much of a burden.
He couldn't afford a private hospital, and he's like, "What do you want?" He's like, "I can't afford a private hospital." So basically, she can't take care of herself. They can't afford anywhere else. So the mental health facility is where Mama's going, even though Mama doesn't have mental health problems.
And this is again, I like all this character building of Karis.
Yeah.
You're just watching his life fall apart. He's trying to do good by God, but at the same time, because of this, he's not able to provide for his mother that needs help.
Yeah.
So then we cut to a swanky party, and Reagan is running around laughing. And the director of the movie, Burke, the one that the mom is kind of like into a bit and everything, is just calling this dude out as a Nazi nonstop. He's like drunk and just like, that's what they did in Nazi Germany. Do you remember doing that kind of stuff? And the dude's getting pissed. I think it's Carl from earlier, the one that did the rat traps. I'm not sure who this guy is, but he's just like laying into him about being a Nazi. So then Mom asks about Karis, and we find out that his mother has just died.
Yep.
Again, we're like, wait,
And
what?
I don't understand why that party has a bunch of like Hollywood or celebrities and priests at it. That
Exactly.
part made no sense to me.
We have a piano playing priest that we see throughout the whole freaking film, like in different blips. But it's like, why is he hanging out with the celebrities? Why are we talking about a psychiatrist that's a priest? Like, where is all of this?
Yeah, because she's like a transplant in what is it, Williamsburg? So
Yeah, I think
she
that's
like
right.
moved there for the movie and and then it's, I don't know, just that part caught me off guard.
Agreed.
With this is how everyone meets. Let's put them in a party.
Yeah. And they don't even explain, like, we find out that his mother had died in this part because they're sharing his information, like, out with the open about his mom passing. But at the same time, we never see him take her out of the hospital.
Right.
We never saw her go into the hospital. It's like all of these inferred things. And it's like, I understand that's important, but that doesn't really have any bearing on the story.
Yeah, I don't have his name in front of me right this second, but the priest that we see playing the piano and stuff in this movie, that we later see at the end of the film, he was actually a priest. Like this guy's a priest that got this role. So he's actually so like we have that tie into it a little bit. So
He's like a drunken priest playing at the piano and just singing, and they're all having a gay old time. And then Reagan comes downstairs in her pajamas, and she's like, "You're gonna die up there," and she pees.
This one was unsettling.
Well, that's after though the director causes a fight by calling that man a Nazi again. He just straight up gets into a fucking fist fight with the help, I guess. They walk the director out of the party, and Mom goes up, checks on Reagan, and we see that she's asleep. The piano priest is doing a sing-along, and that's when Reagan comes down saying, you're gonna die up there, is what she says. So like that is really an unsettling line, because I think that's Pazuzu referring to Reagan upstairs, or I'm not sure. Because
I don't know. It's weird. It's almost like she had a dream, and then she woke up, came downstairs, and then just peed on the floor. And then, mind you, I want to put this into reference for everybody. I asked Nick to pause the movie a couple times so we could see where our timestamps were, just so people could understand. This is 40 fucking minutes into the movie. So you are sitting here listening to all this world building, not a damn thing has happened, and you're 40 minutes in. You could watch an entire episode of some really awesome show like Outlander, and you wouldn't have to sit there for 40 minutes to get nothing.
And I was super proud of myself for still being awake at this point.
See, you should be.
This show will not be a soapbox for your love of Outlander.
Yes, it will. Absolutely. Yes, it will. We have another one in this house falling in love with the show, so the whole house is going to turn into it.
I will not stand for this. Okay. But she begins to wet herself. Yep. The mom says, well, yeah, it's just what was said. So the mom says, "Oh no, not again." So it seems like maybe this is something that's been happening. We not really.
I didn't pick up on that, but okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And then she says that she's been sick lately. We cut to her getting a sponge bath. Mom is sponge bathing Reagan, and Reagan is just staring blankly forward. And she goes, "Mother, what's wrong with me?" While she's laying in bed. And this is like kind of heartbreaking knowing what's going to be happening in this film. But it's like, "Mom, what's wrong with me?" And Mom's just like, "It's nerves, that's all." And we see a maid is cleaning the pee stain out of the rug as the mom comes downstairs, and then you just hear an eruption of noise from upstairs and Reagan screaming, "Mother!" And her bed is busting a groove. It is fucking bouncing all over the place, flying up into the air.
Is this when she's getting tossed around like a rag doll too? Like, okay.
Not yet. And that like straight up, when we get to that, remind me to tell you a little backstory about what happens in that scene. It's crazy. But we then cut to Piano Priest. He shows up. He shows up to Karis's place, and Karis is drunk on scotch, and he's upset about his mother's passing. And we see what seems like a dream of Karis waving his mother down with flashes of Captain Howdy. His mother's like walking out of a subway terminal, and then she walks back down, and it's all like silent. It's very off-putting. It definitely has like that Lynchian dream quality.
But again, what does that have to do other than maybe building his character? But he's already a tragic character. We're already established that. Like, how much more do you need to establish that? 5 more minutes of us watching stuff that's unnecessary.
Yeah, it's not a long scene though. That's all I gotta say. That's my defense. It's not a long scene. I like the scene. It's not a long scene. Yeah. So then we cut to Reagan losing her absolute shit, getting a shot, and she's just, "You fucking bastards! You fucking bastards!" And then it cuts to Karis doing mass. He's performing mass at the church. So it just keeps kind of cutting, like, again, not sure of the timeline here, because it's just like, here's a scene, here's a scene, here's a scene. And then we've got the mom at the doctor's, and they're talking about
her mental health.
And the possibility of like it being a chemical, like doing some sort of chemical electrical probing and stuff in her brain.
Well, he says that he thinks that she might have a seizure or a temporal lobe issue or a lesion on her brain. So they want to go in and do like actual testing to see in order to remove part of that lesion. The doctor this is the thing that I pointed out the most, just because it was just so off-putting, because it's 2023, is this fucking doctor standing there in a hallway and he's just smoking a cigarette.
Hell yeah.
It's just like, what the hell?
Back when men were men.
Oh my God.
Just like literally like walks out of the room that I imagine Reagan is in and stuff, and like walks out, doors barely even shut, and he's just sparking up. He's just like, yeah,
it's so weird. Yeah.
You know, these cigarettes, they say they're going to make you live longer.
And then after this part, they take her to go to get the procedure. Now, we don't know if this is like right then and there, or if this is another time frame, but I'm assuming it's at that time.
Well, right before we do that, like when she's talking about, or when the doctor's talking about them being spasms and all this stuff, the mom is like, "It was not a spasm. I was on the bed. The bed was moving." Like,
and they didn't believe her.
No. So like, but they are saying like, you know, it could be the lesions and stuff. That's why her mood has changed and everything. And Regan is wheeled in for what is the procedure that she's getting wheeled in for at this time? Because I have so many. I got surgery, some tests, MRI.
Yeah. I think I remember hearing them say.
They did say something like that, but I don't, maybe that's what EEGs look like back then, because it was way more invasive than what it is. Like, it's weird because they also put a needle in her neck, and I was like, are they putting in a central line? Like, I didn't know what they were doing.
I think they
Like,
I think they
it's
did
so
that more
strange.
for quote
Yeah.
unquote shock value, because I did read like usually for the dying and stuff like that, they would do like the femoral artery or something like that down in the groin area and stuff. But under extreme circumstances, they will go in right there into the carotid artery to do this. But
Yeah, but like
not
they
necessary.
don't. Well, they don't like to do that because that can cause a blood clot, then it can cause you to stroke out or give you a heart attack, which is then it would transfer through. So I don't understand. Like, I understand that the medical is different back then, but then they put the contrast in her so they could see like what her brain looks like, and they can get shots of that. So then we get to see it. But at the same time, I was just kind of like, this seems weird.
It looked cool though, because you see the blood pulse out of her.
Jesus.
So
Yeah,
you get that, like from a horror film standpoint, it's like I think that's probably the reasoning for them doing this like that.
I guess.
So we see the scans of her brain, and there's nothing there. They're just like, nope, everything's fine.
She's normal. Yep. Well, she's normal.
So then we cut back to Reagan's house, and she's spasming again, and the doctors show up, and this is when Reagan is flailing on the bed and screaming, "Make it stop, it burns," and is getting her legs are
Fixed to the bed.
strapped, fixed to the bed, as her entire torso and everything is flailing up and down, smashing her into the mattress, whipping her like almost to her toes, nonstop, just flailing her body. And the little thing that I do know about this is the harness that she was using for this broke, and she ended up fracturing a vertebrae during
That was
this
an
scene.
actual person.
I've heard about that.
I assumed it was like a dummy.
Yes,
That was her. I think that was her.
that was Linda Blair.
Wow.
Was
It
her,
looks like
yeah.
it's a doll flapping around with as violent as it is. No, I feel bad for laughing.
there are two scenes in this movie that people like legit got hurt, and this is one. And then there's a scene where the mother gets like blown away from Reagan, like when shit's going, she kind of slides into. So in that scene, they had basically just a fucking rope tied to her, and they yanked it. They yanked her so fucking hard that when she slammed into that wall, she cracked the back of her head open, and I believe got a concussion. And they were like, "That looked real. We're keeping that one." So they fucked her up too.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
Wow.
Freaking did some crazy shit in this movie to get reactions out of his actors. So there was a previous movie that we talked, in The Strangers, where like they would tell Liv Tyler something was happening to the left, and they'd do something loud to the right. In this film, let's see here. Jason Miller had a major verbal confrontation with Freakin after the director fired a gun near his ear to get an authentic reaction from him.
That's too
He
much.
told Freakin that he's an actor and that he doesn't need a gun to act surprised or startled.
So remind me, Freakin is the guy, is not
director.
the author. He's not the producer, he's the director. Okay.
Correct.
The producer is the author of the book.
Correct.
Right.
Blatty.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, I love the fact that this motherfucker's just like, you know what's gonna scare him? Bang! Just like,
Jesus.
and I can only imagine just being like, what the fuck was that? I'm an actor. Like, just I can do this. I don't need you to fucking fire a gun at me or around me, rather. And
So in this scene is when we get the demon
and-
presenting itself and the growling.
and Jason Miller is the guy who plays Karis. So that's who it is. So I got his name up. Sorry.
Okay.
What were you saying?
I just said that this is the scene where we get to see the growling
Yes.
from the demon, and we actually kind of get more of a presence of this situation.
Yeah, her eyes turn white, and there's like a massive bulge in her neck. Her neck is like swelling out, and she jumps up and smacks the doctor. Like, so the doctors are like seeing this happen, and she in a deeper kind of gravelly voice says, "Keep away, her soul is mine," and then looks at another one and just 4 times just goes, "Fuck me, fuck me, fuck me," and Mom is broken up, like
Rightfully so.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like,
Let's
this
be
is
real.
insane. Yeah.
So the doctors heavily sedate her, and they believe that in some pathological states, you can gain abnormal strength. They refer to mothers lifting cars to get their children out from under them and stuff. And they still think that it's something with her temporal lobe. And Mom is like, "Fuck you, buddy." Like, that's not.
That's not this.
Did you fucking see this? Did you see, like, this isn't what you're talking about? And the doctors are like,
Yeah.
"I don't know. I am a doctor."
And then they want to run more tests. So that's what they do.
It felt very like scammy at that point, where he's like, "I mean, we can just bill you for everything and just fuck." Like, that's how it felt at this point for me. And so the doctor says more tests. They still can't find anything, and the mother is being asked if there are any drugs in your house, and Mom's like, "Absolutely not. I don't even smoke." Which we later see her smoking.
I think so.
So I think that's kind of like she's getting pushed. Like,
Yeah.
she's needing something.
Needing something. Yeah.
And she's told that I think it's time that we start looking for a psychiatrist. So they're believing that it's well beyond like just medical stuff. Maybe she's like, they're just playing it like, I think she's just fucking losing her mind, which still, I don't even know in the 70s, like when you're seeing this stuff, it's like, yeah, nah, she's just crazy. She's just crazy.
Yep.
But like, that's how they would deal with people with depression and stuff like that back in these days. And like, you go further back, it's like everything's just curable by a lobotomy. You just fucking poke their brain, they'll be fine, you know.
Oh yeah. You got called crazy for much less.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the 70s.
Oh, women, if you want to go further back, women would be institutionalized for having postpartum depression and stuff like that, and just be wheeled away forever because of just chemical imbalances due to giving birth.
Let's get into the history of psychology. I could talk about that for days. Let's get into hysteria and the fact that it's a purely female.
Oh yeah, well,
female
diagnosis.
Thank you.
Yep.
Lost the
well,
word.
it's true. Bitches do be crazy.
Shut your goddamn mouth.
Yeah.
Keep reading.
Keep reading, scum. Where was I before I got threatened?
So mom is returning home,
Yes.
and the phone rings and nobody's there.
Yep, and the lights are blinking, and Mom is heckin' spooked. She goes upstairs, and Reagan's window is open, and Mom can see her breath. So it's like freezing in the room, and Mom covers Reagan up in the bed after closing the window, and she comes downstairs and yells at like the sitter about leaving Reagan alone. And the sitter says that Burke was watching her, but he left. She didn't see him leave, but he was gone. So a man shows up to tell her that Burke is dead. Like,
And he fell down the stairs.
Fell down the stairs. Which, okay, so this is something that took me a bit, like, until like I really like got through to the end of the film. The staircase is right there in front of the house. Basically,
It's outside the girl's bedroom window, so like they don't show you any of that until later on. So again, this is another one of those spots. It's kind of like, oh, so he left and fell down some stairs. Like it's
if they would have shot it, like given us like an exterior shot that really set the fact that these stairs in the house were like right there together. They show the stairs a lot, and they don't show you much of the house exterior wise.
Right.
So like at this point, and like I said, I've seen this film before, but it's been a while. He fell down some stairs and died. I thought the stairs were like somewhere across town.
Yeah, I didn't understand. I just thought maybe he saw something with her and was scared and ran out of the house and fell down some stairs somewhere. Like he was just manic, you know. and there's no other information here. And then isn't this kind of like when the fuzz is included? It's just
and he's my least favorite character in the movie because he does take up a lot of time. This is
like everything else.
But like they could have done. I get the reasoning of having him there and everything, but it doesn't. This does not do much
because they're supposed to like insinuate foul play because his head was supposed to be turned or something. They also tell you that at some point in this movie, but they don't. Again, everything is very. It doesn't go into depth in pretty much anything. Everything is very face value.
Well, it's because we needed 20 minutes at the beginning of the movie to show Iraq. So then we cut to a shrink, and he has hypnotized Regan and is asking, "Is there someone inside of you?" And she comments back, "Sometimes." And the psychiatrist or hypnotherapist asks, "Is it Captain Howdy? Can I speak to him?" And Regan answers, "No, I'm scared." So this is a creepy fucking scene. Like anytime they're talking about this stuff, it's like she's very aware that there's something inside of her.
Mm-hmm. Well, she is in this part of the movie until the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Which is another thing that I have a problem with, but that's fine.
We'll get to that.
She's speaking to the person, and then he asks, "Can I speak to the person inside of Regan? Can you come forward?" And he does, basically, and he's growling.
Yeah.
And he attacks the man, right?
I
have growling and then attacks man.
Okay, I don't have that in my notes, but that probably does happen.
And then I put.
Oh, yeah, I have that. Yeah.
Okay.
As he's talking to her, a picture falls down and Reagan's mouth opens, growling. She grabs the shrink by the dick and tackles him.
There we go. So she attacks him.
Oh yeah, the dick grabbing. I forgot about that. The dick
grabbing. Yeah. I don't remember much of it. I just remember writing halfway through the movie.
We then cut to Karis running laps, and the homicide detective asks about the director's death, Burke, and asks him what he knows about witchcraft, the church desecration that has happened with the rockin' tits and swinging dick. He thinks that might be tied to some sort of black mass and stuff like that. And this is when we find out that Burke was found with his head twisted 180 degrees around. And it's unlikely, because of how the fall is, it doesn't make sense why his head would be spun around. He thinks that Burke's death and this black mass might be tied together somehow.
Which they never tell you if it is or what the point of it is. So it's like, oh, maybe we need to come up with a reason to make these kind of associated but not associated. And then also during this part, this is my least favorite part with the detective, because the detective's there trying to be buddy with Mr. Priest, and it's like, do you know about this? Do you think this could be associated? Hey, do you go to the movies? Would you like to go to the movies with me? We could go see this film. And he's like, I already saw that film. Oh, you did see that film? And then it turns in from that to him fucking threatening him. And it's like, you go from being friendly, you're playing good cop, bad cop all in the same sentence.
And you're both cops.
Well, the more things change, the more they stay the same, really. I mean,
I guess that's true, but it's like he's just whipping his cock out and being like, I am the man, you're going to listen to me. And it's just so stupid. Like, if you want somebody to listen to you and to be helpful, why are you threatening? He's a priest. Like,
yeah, well,
he's doing you a favor.
I think it's just because he's not being cooperative and stuff, and he then starts to.
But he's not being cooperative. Yeah. Like he's walking with him. He's talking to him.
He doesn't have. Yeah. You don't have to talk to the cops. You know.
Exactly. It's like, and then this guy's like, I'm going to be nice, then I'm going to be a dick, then I'm going to be nice again, then I'm going to be an asshole again, and I'm just like, dude, I don't like you.
Yeah. So he then the detective asks if he thinks that a priest could have done this. I don't know why he's going down that road. And then Karis, out of nowhere, is just like, I don't know, fucking ask the Dominicans. Like,
what?
Yeah. Like, I have no idea where that comes from or why. I was just like, I need to write this down because I don't understand where this is coming from. It was the 70s.
We as to say, maybe there was something going on politically that has something to do with that they were using as a reference to make it more pop culture-y. I don't know.
They could have talked about it in the book. Maybe it has something to do with 20 minutes in Iraq.
Maybe.
So the theme song comes back, and the doctor is talking about some sort of psychiatric possession, which I didn't really understand what this was all about. Like it kind of sounded more like he was talking about split personality disorder or whatever, but like the terminology that they were using was very confusing to me, in the sense like it was a lot of doctor mumbo jumbo, you know. And said that might be looking into some shock treatment. Have you? And then kind of was like, and if that doesn't work, maybe have you ever heard of an exorcism? And that's a huge thing now. Okay, so before this movie came out, like in the book and stuff, exorcism wasn't like it is now, in the sense of being so pop cultural, like relevant and stuff like that. This brought it into like the social consciousness, because it even talks about it in this film that priests don't do that. That's something from like the 1600s that the Catholic Church is kind of embarrassed of, because even they thought it was kind of hokey and stuff like that.
Yeah, they were talking about putting her in an asylum or something, and Mom's like, I'm not locking her away. And then that's when they offer the exorcism to see if, and they're just basically naming the movie in the middle of the movie.
They said it. They said the title of the movie.
Yeah, that's kind of how it feels in this point to me.
But
I like how they're like ruling out all the options. Like how you said it. Like, have you ever heard of this? Like, it's our last chance.
Again, though, like they're name dropping it or whatever. But again, like I'm going back to saying, this movie kind of like started this genre. So like the fact of like an exorcism film did not really exist. Like there might have been some low budget ones and everything, but like it's like when you're talking about getting the street cred and all that, like everything, it's like this is the one that people think of because this is the one that had the biggest impact and everything. And a lot of people, even Catholics, did not even know what an exorcism was until this film came out.
Yeah, so while it sucks that it took an hour and a half to get to this point, it makes sense from a time frame point of view, where they have to rule out all of this other stuff that it would most likely be, and then last ditch effort, well, maybe she's possessed.
I mean, there's this old thing that like not many people talk about, like it's only the weird priests, which kind of makes more sense than why there's the 20-minute scene. It doesn't need to be 20 minutes. I understand that, but it does kind of explain more than like, that the older priest at the beginning of the film is like doing what he's doing because he's kind of on the outskirts and stuff. He's not like it seems like he's not like a popular priest. Like he's like one of those like kooky guys.
It's like the oddball.
Well, he's the one that performs all the exorcisms. So maybe he's just worn down and exhausted after years of doing this. And so this is his way of just kind of giving back to the world, is going through and going to these digs and finding things in like working in like third world countries, essentially.
Well, and like the mom even says, like when they talk about the exorcism and stuff, she's like, you think I should take my daughter to a witch doctor? That's how this was viewed. Like it was just not understood. And like even the idea of like calling it a witch doctor, like witch doctor stuff and like hoodoo and voodoo practices and Santeria and all this stuff, people don't understand that stuff. They understand what movies have cherry picked and made this like cultural appropriation of stuff to like be like, oh, we're just gonna have a witch doctor or whatever. People don't understand what these things really are. And this film definitely like is like, no, this is exactly like what goes on in an exorcism.
Yeah, I think it highlights that. It takes something that was more foreign and makes it more modernized for the time, and explains in a very normal, relatable setting of what it could look like if you were in this situation. does that mean that it takes 2 hours to do that? And you have to build all this backstory to it to make it palatable? No, but it does give that understanding on a more personalized level, I guess.
Okay, so let's go back to talking about a previous film that previous film. Well, actually, it's a future episode, but Bird Box. Bird Box actually will come out after this, but because of recording things, whatever. But Bird Box.
You're lifting the veil.
I know.
Right? But Bird Box.
How dare you?
Not to go into the movie, but something that I had asked for Bird Box, I'm going to ask about this is, do you think that this would have worked better as nowadays, if it were to come out as a television series, because of all of the exposition and character building that they needed as a short mini series kind of thing to get all these character developments and stuff? Do you think that giving it something like that would work better or not?
If it involves John Constantine, yes.
Oh, geez. We're back to that.
Hey. You do not speak ill of John Constantine.
I wasn't speaking ill. I was just saying. Here we are again.
I actually listened to a podcast where they just reviewed that, and one of the guys gave Constantine a 10 out of 10. So
the movie might not be a 10 out of 10, but John Constantine's character is a 10 out of 10.
Which they're making a sequel to it, so you'll get that. I think next year.
I know.
But anyway, back to the question.
Yeah.
I think so, because then you could embed more drama into the series. If it were a series versus a movie, you could expand on a lot without making the movie longer. You could expand on a lot and make the episodes maybe 40-minute episodes. And I think that get more out of it. I think they did actually do an Exorcist television series on Fox for 2 seasons, but that was before the big television boom that we're in now. So the reason I'm asking the question is just how television shows are done now and everything with the streaming services and all that stuff, and how they're treated as just movies, but with longer form beats and stuff like that. It's not necessarily something that I would watch, but I mean, I don't know if it would work better.
I don't know. I think it would work better, but I think you would have to have better content. Overall, I feel like this is unless the book is built completely different, which I'm assuming it's not, if the guy that produced it is the guy that made the book, if it had a more palatable plot for modern day stuff, or to play as a period piece, maybe for a vintage piece or whatever. It's not period, but a vintage piece, maybe. But again, it's very slow. So if the book is supposed to then play into the TV series, does that just mean the TV series is just elongated boringness? I don't know.
And I don't think it would be as boring if there was more. If it was beefier.
Correct.
Going more a whole episode arc of the young priest.
Yes.
Things like that.
That's why I ask, is because when the complaint is that a movie is too long for it just kind of ponders around and stuff like that. It always makes me wonder if it just would have been better as a television series nowadays, a single season, 6 episode kind of thing.
I think most things are actually better as TV series, because I actually prefer them. Unlike you don't, but because it takes a lot of time and effort, but to watch them, and a lot of, that's a lot more time than watching 2-hour movie. But I prefer that because you get a deeper understanding and feeling for most of the characters, and you have that connection. But in this case, again, like Tasha said, it would have to have some really good meat to it in order to understand.
I don't want to learn about characters. I want to see guts and boobs. Okay.
Yes.
I'm like Steph in that I prefer TV series, because you always, majority of the time, you end with a cliffhanger that then rolls you into the next episode.
Yes.
And if you have a movie that doesn't have any cliffhangers going into a different scene, that's where I get lost. That's when I fall asleep, is when it's just humdrum, still a linear movie. Those are hard for me.
I don't know. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that when we start talking about Evil Dead 2, you fucking peasant. Okay, so
Keep reading.
Yes, ma'am. So we cut to them carrying Regan into her home, and the detective is looking up at a large staircase where Burke died. He finds a bit of the idol on the ground that we have kind of seen a little bit before. Then we see Mom pulls a crucifix out of Regan's bed and asks Carl, "Did you put this in Regan's bed?" And then the detective is, it just says detective up the stairs. So I believe he's up at the top of the stairs now. And we just keep cutting to all this detective stuff. And it's specifically because they're trying to make you think, like, is she crazy? Did she do this? All this stuff. So then Mom starts asking around about the crucifix. And I've got, "A man is here to see you." And it's the detective, and he starts asking her about Burke, his last moments, not making sense. Seems like he was killed by a powerful man. And ask your daughter if she saw Mr. Dennings in her room last night. I think, is Mr. Dennings Carl, or is Mr. Dennings the piano priest? So. Is it the Carl? Okay. I don't know.
I don't know.
Because the names just kind of dropped. And then he's like, "Can I get an autograph for my daughter?" He lied. It's for him. He saw her film Angel 6 times. This doesn't matter. She's kind of freaked out a bit after. Yep, she's kind of freaked out a bit after he leaves. And then we cut to hearing multiple voices upstairs. Well, don't cut. It's just like right then and there. Multiple voices upstairs yelling. And you can hear Reagan's voice and another voice. Mom runs in and shit is flying everywhere, and Reagan is bloodily masturbating with a crucifix, saying, "Jesus Christ, fuck you," repeatedly. This is when I believe the mother gets pulled by the rope and cracks her head open. Yeah, because the mom's trying to stop her. Reagan overpowers her and keeps yelling at her, "Lick me, lick me, lick me." And Reagan,
so gross.
Yeah.
It's so gross. Yes, I thought the same thing. It's nasty.
Reagan starts moving the dresser with like telekinesis, basically, and her head spins right the fuck around 180 degrees. And she asks her mother, "Do you know what she did, your cunting daughter?" This line is insane. Because two things. Spoiler warnings already went up. What Pazuzu is asking the mother at this very point. Do you know what he's asking? Like, where he's like, "Do you know what she did?" No. He's asking her, "Do you know that she threw Burke out the window?" Because he did that. Like, but he's like, "Do you know what she did? Do you know what?" Like, I'm not going to repeat what he said, but I had to.
Also, Mr. Dennings is Burke.
It is Burke. Okay, it's Burke Dennings. Yeah. Gotcha. So okay, that makes sense. But yeah, like that's what he's like. Do you know what she did? And it's like, it's not she, it's you. But that's what he's asking about. Mom screams.
I was thinking it was like, "Do you know what she did? She's the reason I'm here." Like with the Ouija board.
Gotcha. It could be twofold, but from what I read and stuff, like that's kind of what he's leaning at. But it makes sense there too. Mom screams and cowers and covered in blood. So then we cut to Mom and Karis finally meet. We are an hour and 15 minutes into this movie. Mom is wearing shades and is covered with bruises and asks if Karis knows about her daughter. And
this is when they're both smoking.
Yep, they're both smoking. So she's like, "I don't even smoke it now." She's just
finally
like
going in.
Yep. She's like, "Fuck, my nerves are shot." And asks him, "How do you go about getting an exorcism?" And Karis is like, "I beg your pardon." And he's like, "You're going to need a time machine to take you back to the 16th century," and talks about how Harvard taught him through the years that exorcism is just the church's way of trying to deal with mental disorders. So like he's went to Harvard for psychology and stuff like that. And yeah, so where are we at then? Mom breaks down and just says, "Just help me, please." And we cut to Karis and Mom at Reagan's room, right outside the room. and Reagan is fucked up, strapped down.
And she has a feeding tube down her nose.
Yep. And I've got "I'm not Reagan" written down. So
like he asks, "Where's Reagan?" And and then the demon says, "In here with us."
Yep. And Pazuzu, I'll just keep saying Reagan, but it's Pazuzu speaking in these ways and stuff like that. It's like, "Your mother's in here, Mr. Karras. Would you like to leave her a message?" And Karras still doesn't believe that she's possessed, and he's like, "Well, if she's there, you must know her maiden name." And Reagan's like not answering. He's like, "Well, what's her maiden name?" And split pea soup puke to the face.
Yep.
His shock in this scene is real because of a malfunction. This was supposed to shoot him in the chest, and he got it right to the face and was pissed.
You can tell on his face. Oh yeah, that stark wipe off.
Yeah.
Like, God damn it.
So we then cut to Mom cleaning his stuff off, and Karras is basically saying like, the only reason I don't want to help is because I don't want to make things worse. Like, he's just like, I see what's going on. This doesn't make sense to me either, but like, I don't want to be held accountable for what could happen. And he goes to see basically a higher up, and that the church needs certain signs, like speaking languages. Like he's got to take this stuff to his higher ups rather, and that he needs certain signs like that she's speaking languages that she doesn't know, and she's not like, he's like, well, like she's not saying that it's demons, she's saying that it's the devil himself that's inside of her, and that he thinks that maybe she does need institutionalized. And the mom is saying, "So tell me that an exorcism would do her any good. Like, you're telling me that even just trying to exorcise her wouldn't help? Like, she's just at her last nerve. Like, she's tried everything." And as he's leaving the house, he's asking the mom, it's like, "So is Reagan aware of my mother's passing?" And she's like, "No." And it's like, "Why?" He's like, "Oh, no reason." So he starts walking off. So you start seeing this, like, it's like, these things don't make sense. Like, how is she aware of all this stuff? We cut to Karras performing communion. And then we cut to him coming back, and we get the tagline for this movie as Reagan says, "What a wonderful day for an exorcism." And like from here, you guys are gonna have to kind of help fill in stuff, because this is where like my notes get like really pressed for time, because a lot of stuff's going on and I'm writing down a lot of quotes and everything. So he's like,
so the priest gets back with Reagan at some point, and she starts tormenting him, and he puts holy water on her.
That's right.
And Reagan starts screaming, "It burns!" And the priest wants to know who's inside her. And even though it's tap water, so we find out that, I was throwing it on her, but it wasn't actually holy water. It was just tap water.
Yeah, because he asks her, like, "How long do you plan to be in Reagan?" Or in Reagan. I keep saying Regan. In Reagan.
I don't remember which one it is.
It's Reagan.
Yeah.
It's Reagan.
It's Reagan. Most girls are named Regan, but it's Reagan, like Ronald Reagan.
Okay.
But so he says, "How long do you plan to be in Reagan?" And Pazuzu responds back, "Until she's rotting in the ground." All of these lines are so good. Like, no matter how heinous they are, like just the delivery of them and everything coming out of this young lady it's shocking. But we see that Karras comes down. He's having a scotch with Mom in her office and explains that he was only using tap water, not holy water, and she was acting like it was holy water and everything, like with the flailing. And
Mom confesses that she thinks the daughter pushed the guy out the window.
Yep, she thinks that she might have killed Burke. So then we cut to the priest. he's playing the recording of this previous, like when he goes up there and is like talking to Reagan, he's recording it on like a little cassette recorder kind of thing. And then right now we're getting the tape being played back, and what he thought was her speaking in tongues and stuff like that is her speaking English backwards, answering his questions. So when he's like, "Who are you?" It's just like, rah, 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 but played backwards, it's, "I am no one."
Yep. And then the priest then returns after this
Yep. And
to an ice cold bedroom, and the words "help me" are on her stomach, and she's sleeping.
They're not just on her stomach, they start to appear on her stomach, because this is supposed to be Reagan writing inside of her
From within,
trying to call out for help, and it's showing up as welts on her stomach. So Karis, a judgment that is real. He goes to his boss, and his boss, I don't know what, like, cardinal and all that stuff, like it's higher up than a priest, basically is like, "Well, we're going to get this older priest that has some history with exorcisms to come and help you out with this, you know, like, if you believe these things to be true and everything, we'll get him." And this is where we are re-met with Father Marin. This is the priest from the beginning of the film. We have 27 minutes left. We finally get the shot of Father Marin by the streetlight. This is what is used on all the marketing material for this film, and it's an amazing shot. It looks so ominous, so creepy, and it's basically, once you get this shot, from here,
the movie
starts.
From here to the end of the film, 10 out of 10.
Yeah. That's the only 10 out of 10 of this whole movie. It's the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's so good though. I could watch this last 27 minutes like all the time. First hour plus, not so much. So, we see Reagan's eyes are like fucking crazed out, like yellow, heavy duty. Like, these are old school lenses too. So like she probably couldn't see much and everything. And Marin meets Mom and meets Karis, and I believe we had to rewind it. I think you hear Reagan yell Marin's name.
I think it was like brief. I might have been.
The first time it sounds like he's like, "Marin," and then it's like more growling. And if that's the case, that's fucking horrifying, because they haven't.
Yeah, that's cool.
So Marin's like, "I need holy water and coffee." Like, just like, this is what, and he's like very like, before he sees Reagan and stuff, he's just like, "This is what we're gonna have to do. This is what we're gonna do. Give me these things. There we go."
Well, for being in a movie of it being so slow up until this point, the last 20 minutes is just like freaking adrenaline rush, like in sense of what you're, And so Father Marin goes upstairs and warns everybody, like, the demon is a liar. It will mix lies and truths. Do not listen. Like, he is very adamant, like, we're going to do this. We are getting right to the nitty gritty. We're going to perform this exorcism. He's not there to just start shit. He's just there to finish it, basically.
Yep.
This reminds me a lot of The Priest's Exorcist with Russell Crowe. It's a newer exorcism movie.
Okay.
But Father Marin reminds me a lot of Russell Crowe's character with the, like, "I need holy water and a coffee." And then how he has Karis as his counterpart. There's like a younger priest as Russell Crowe's counterpart. So I feel like the new movie really stole from this.
Well, it
Probably.
makes you wonder, because I know that the newer one with Russell Crowe and stuff is supposedly like based on a real priest and stuff. Granted, it's a film and it's used kind of as propaganda and stuff. Like, if they're saying it was a real priest, it's kind of pushing the whole thing. But I'm wondering if Marin could possibly be I don't have a lot of history with the book or anything, and I'm wondering how much of the fictitious writing of the book is based on possibly a real priest. If Marin, like, in the sense of like, could Marin and Russell Crowe's character be based on the same priest?
Possibly.
Like, if they're both very just like, "Get me these things in this coffee," or if that's just the way that priests are depicted, but
possibly. So this is the part of the movie where you kind of get a lot of like lewd remarks more than normal from our demon. and it likes to talk. So it in this part, this made me laugh, so I wrote it down. It said, "Stick your cock up her ass, you," and then I can't remember what the last words were.
Well, this is like before that. Karras starts giving Marin some background on Regan, and he's like, I don't care. I don't care. We're going to go in there. This is He kisses his crucifix. Marin does, and that's where your quotes start coming, and it's stick your cock up her ass, you motherfucker, comes out. And Marin starts reciting the Lord's Prayer, and Regan hacks in his face. And she starts to moan and writhe, and Karras then also helps beginning in the prayer. And this is the line from this movie for me. Regan sits up and looking at Karras and says, "Your mother sucks cocks in hell, Karras." And just lashing out as like all this vitriol and trying to get at them. And they just continue to pray, and Regan is growling and snapping her teeth at them. That is the most... that's the creepiest part to me in this. It's like how it's not just like snarling at, like she's snapping her teeth at them, like trying to get at them. And at one
point she's doing her tongue, and it's like this weird stuff.
Yeah,
and then
the tongue was weird.
It was, and then the bed starts to lift off the ground and starts to float.
Yeah, and it slowly starts to rise off the ground, and you see Karras starts to become like paralyzed by fear in this second, because it's his realization that this is supernatural. The lights begin to flicker, and Regan's eyes, she starts to eye down Karras, and you hear, "See the cross of the Lord," come from Marin. He's like continuing on with the exorcism rites, and green vomit pours from Regan's mouth. The doors start slamming, and Regan begins laughing. Marin begins to cough. I cast you out, and Regan starts screaming back, fuck him, Karras," like telling Karras to fuck Marin. Like she's just lashing out in every possible way. Regan's head then spins around, and you see the Captain Howdy face over Regan's face. She then stares Karras down and says, "You left her, Karras. You left her to die." Regan's eyes turn white as she begins to levitate off the bed. This is fucking crazy. Like,
as the walls and the doors have cracked and the house is shaking. Yeah. Like, it is very insane.
The room quakes as you hear Karras and Marin saying, "The power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you." She slowly descends down to the bed. Karras straps her down. Marin continues, "God himself compels you." Regan hits Karras. Karras crawls as the room quakes. Regan arches up, silhouetted in front of the statue from the beginning.
Yeah, but she's kneeling on the bed. And then it's like they rest. It's like this reprieve. It's like an exhale for literally 30 seconds.
Yeah, so Karras, I've got Karras is shooketh. And Marin is like, "Are you tired? Let's rest a bit before we start again." And you're like, this isn't fucking over. Because all of that shit happened, like everything that was just like, pop, 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 that happens in like 5 to 10 minutes. Like once they start the exorcism, we're not hanging around anymore. This is going to be like machine gunned at you.
This is like when the boxers are just like hanging off of themselves in a fight. Like they're both taking a breath to gear up for it again.
Yep.
So Karras is like visibly broken, sitting on the stairs, and they begin to regroup. Marin goes to the bathroom, takes his meds, which was the glycerin that we talked about. So that makes a little more sense. He's just like, oh man, my heart's taking a beating. Yep. Karras sees his mother in the bed. So when he comes in and looks, it's no longer Regan, it's his mother there. And Regan is staring at the ceiling, panting. Karras dabs her head, and Regan speaks to... So he sees his mother in his bed, or in her bed. He walks up to her and starts dabbing her head, and Reagan speaks as his mother, and asks, "Why did you do this to me?" And he's like, "You're not my mother." Like, he's trying so hard to fight against it, and he's getting like super worked up. He's like, "You're not my mother," and Marin just tells him to get the fuck out of here. He's like, "You're compromised. Get out," in a very stark way. So now it's just Marin versus Reagan. He kisses his crucifix again, and we get Exorcism round 2, fight.
Ding ding.
So Marin holds Reagan's hand and starts the Lord's Prayer again. We cut to Karen in the hallway, and the mom asks, "Is it over? Is she going to die?" And Karis just tells her no. We cut back to the detective returning, and Karis re-enters the room, and Marin's dead, laying on the bed, and Reagan is just chilling like, "What? I didn't do anything."
Well, she's like giggling on the bed, isn't she?
Yeah, at first she's
like
just kind of,
she's like gleeful, like this motherfucker's dead, haha.
when they first show her though, she's like, looks like she's like leaning up against like a bedpost, and she's like, "What?"
He's just dead on my floor.
He was dead when I got here.
Yeah.
But so Karen just starts to beat that ass. Just drags her off the bed and just starts beating the shit out of Reagan. And while he's doing that, he's just screaming at her, "Take me, take me." And at this point,
and it does.
It does. The demon jumps into him, and before he can attack Reagan, he jumps out the window to his death.
Yep. And the same steps that we then find out was the same steps that Burke had fell down and died earlier in the movie.
Yep. So we cut to the piano priest asking Karis that is dying at the bottom of the stairs. He starts to ask him if he wants to give confession, and begins to give him his last rites. So that's a sad scene. Like, that point,
he's a tragic character through this whole movie.
It's so sad. Like, he literally like sacrifices himself for this girl that he does not know.
Nope. And then the end of the movie literally is, this happens, then so basically both the priests die. The family says, "Oh, we're out of here." You see all the sheets all over their bedding. They ask one of their helper ladies if she wants to come. She says no, but the other guy, Carl's, going with them. And we see that priest again, and he's talking to the mother out by the car. And it basically they're talking about Reagan and how she's doing, and then it's like, she doesn't remember anything.
Thank God. But yeah, that's basically the movie. Like, they drive off. She gives this necklace and everything. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, it just kind of ties itself up, and they go off. But all the exorcism scene, nice. The rest of it, not so much. But
so, how much of this did you watch the whole movie, Tasha? Did you watch it in bits, or did you I knew you fell asleep, but did you go back and rewatch, or did you just give up?
So I made it to probably right before Reagan had the big bulging neck.
Okay.
That part I didn't see. So that's maybe an hour-ish in.
Yeah.
And then I went back and did a lot of research, like Cliff Notes versions, and then watched all of the bits that needed to be watched.
Oh, so you didn't watch the movie?
I didn't. No, time did not allow for me to watch the movie, full disclosure.
That's fine.
But I did see I did see basically the last 20 minutes. So I saw the good bits.
You saw the selling point.
Yeah. That was it.
That's fair. So, what do you give it, Tasha? 10 out of 10. Not 10 out of 10. Out of 10. Tasha gives this movie a 10 out of 10. Sparks Notes, 10 out of 10. What do you give The Exorcist from 1973?
Speaking of Spark Notes, as I was doing this earlier, Drew was like, "You're like a high school kid getting ready for a test," as I'm like getting all of my notes and things around. Anyway, I give it a 4.
Okay.
I know. Here's why. Basically everything we've said for the past 2 hours. But it's a 4, which is higher than like my actual thought of the movie, because knowing how all of the effects are practical and there's no CGI, I think that's really cool. But the storyline, exorcism movies aren't my thing in general. And I'm not a huge fan of like old classics, unfortunately. But yeah, the last 20 minutes and like those iconic scenes, they still hold up for what they are. So 4 exorcisms out of 10.
So okay, like so you're giving it a 4 out of 10 as its total.
Yes.
What do you give that 20 minutes though?
Last 20 minutes, I would give a 6.
Damn. So fucking, that's low as shit. All right. All right, Steph, what do you give it?
Okay, so after I finished this movie, I wrote my rating, my after movie finished thoughts. And then I was debating if I wanted to keep the stars, but I rated what was that movie? The Reanimator. I think I gave it a 4-star, right? This movie was way worse than that. So I was like, I can't rate this movie higher or similar to the Reanimator if I didn't like it as much. Like I would rewatch the Reanimator and I would not rewatch this. So that being said, I'm going to stick with my original rating that I wrote down only on those merits because I would not rewatch this movie. I would watch the last 15 minutes, 20 minutes of the movie again and again, but I would never rewatch. I would never put myself through that torture again. I'm going to give this movie a 3-star.
Okay. That's fair. Not really, but okay.
I love that you compared The Exorcist with Reanimator.
Well, for watchability, absolutely. Like, no.
So,
I love that.
Obviously, like, I mean, I'm going to give this movie a higher score than you girls. Not for any reasons other than like historically, like as a horror film, it gets like I give it a lot of credit for what it did and everything. As a film, though, what I do have as a note up here is I've got 100 minutes of 5 out of 10 with 20 minutes of 10 out of 10. So that gives me my score for the movie.
7 points.
No.
I love that.
I give it a 6. I give this movie a 6 out of 10.
That is way lower than the average would have been. I was thinking a 7.5.
No,
but it's based on time though. So like
I'm saying like that 10 minutes was awesome. The rest of the movie, I'm giving a 5. But when you're like looking at this film as like a 2-hour movie, it just kind of weighs down on you.
You think the rest of that movie was still a 5?
Yeah.
Oh God, no.
That's fine. Like, we don't have to.
Horrible.
I don't think that it's bad. I just think that like I'm just like going as like 5. It is. It's not for everybody and stuff. Like for its time and stuff, I can't look at it properly. Like I imagine that all of that stuff compared to films at its time and stuff, it was probably very similar in pacing and stuff. So I'm trying to take myself out of that because I can't really give it a proper reviewing on that. But there are some things in there that I do find interesting, and like I said, I like every scene that Karis is in. I like the mother dealing with the doctors and stuff like that. But that's why it gets a 5 for the rest of the time. But as a whole, I give it a 6.
A 6.
All right.
That's sad. That's sad.
What's that give us for a total there, Tasha?
Oy. We do not match the general public. It's a 43%.
Okay. 43%. General
It fails.
I was gonna say it's not for everybody. I wouldn't suggest this movie except for if you are a horror fan and you just haven't seen it. I would suggest like, oh, you haven't seen The Exorcist? Well, you don't want
Go watch Evil Dead 2 instead.
I agree with that statement.
My thing is just like if you don't want your horror fan card taken, do you? Like you watch it just to say like, yeah, I saw it.
But doesn't it take your card in the sense of like you put yourself through 2 hours of torture just to say you watched a classic, even though you lost 2 hours of your life watching this movie? So
I want to say
where are you spending your time?
I want to say something about a film that we technically, as these come out and stuff, haven't technically watched yet. I would like to make a comment about Bird Box and the 2 hours that I would like back, but I'm not going to.
That's going to be Nick's card this entire
It It is, but it's not even comparable because Bird Box is super fucking good, and he's complaining about this.
I don't want to.
Are we forgetting about Buffy, everybody?
Exactly. I still realistically found Buffy more entertaining than this movie just because of its ridiculousness, but it wasn't a good movie.
Not me. All right.
So,
Anyway.
Evil Dead 2.
Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 2.
Evil Dead 2.
1987 film by Sam Raimi, and it was in 1 hour and 24 minutes long, and it was the first time I've ever seen this movie, so Nick doesn't have to go through what is your relationship with this movie. I never fucking seen this movie. I knew nothing about the Evil Dead franchise other than the iconic picture of like the Army of Darkness image that you see with the guy and the chainsaw. I didn't know shit about any of this stuff. So this was me going in blind and just wondering what it was about, and holy fucking shit.
My community theater put it on a couple years ago, and that was my first like go of it, and it was fucking amazing. I laughed. I laughed so hard I cried.
It is so funny.
Your first meeting with this film was community theater. I think that's very fitting.
Sir,
I think that's very fitting for this movie.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So going into that, already having seen the low budget acting version of this, I was like keyed in and ready to go. Unfortunately, I did still fall asleep. But that was because I knew what was happening.
That's just because I think you need to get checked out for narcolepsy.
You're not the first person to say that. It's on my to-do list.
Oh gosh. Okay. So the movie starts out. Nick's relationship. We got to do our
you're
reviews.
jumping the gun.
Oh, I am.
You're jumping the gun. So
we only have so much time.
I know. We're going to get there. So first off, spoiler warning. My history with this film, real quick. I own it on VHS. I bought it from the library from where we grew up when they were doing a big sale, and it ruined my life for a little bit. I remember being horrified of the cover of this movie, and I was so wrong. This movie is responsible for the reason I like a lot of the films that I like.
That makes sense.
If you need a reason for like why Nick goes down the path that he goes down, Evil Dead 2, when I was like 10 years old, is the reason that happened. It fucked me up, and just that's where I went.
This movie is a campy comedy horror.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I look at it as. And it fits that genre literally to perfection in that sense. Like, is it a perfect movie? No.
Yes.
But is it in the sense of, like, it hits on all of those aspects? It really hits, like, hard on all of those aspects.
As far as the campy comedy movies we've watched so far, this is by far my favorite.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So we got 10 out of 10, 1 out of 10. Who's got the... let's go with the 10 out of 10 first. No, let's go with the 1 out of 10 first.
I think that's Tasha.
On it. Hold on. There we go.
Oh, shit.
It starts out... worst film I've ever seen. And then it goes on to say...
They haven't seen Buffy.
No.
That's fair, yeah. This film is really terrible. I really liked the first, quote, Evil Dead, and was so excited to watch the sequel, if you can even call it a sequel, but I was left extremely disappointed. The first film was scary, filled with suspense and plenty of gore. The ending of the first one definitely left the possibility open for a sequel, and I couldn't wait. However, Evil Dead 2 really does not follow from the first film whatsoever. I won't write any spoilers, but if you watch both films, you'll see what I mean about the beginning of Evil Dead 2 being very confusing given what happened at the end of Evil Dead. The genre is listed as comedy horror. This is my main gripe with this movie. It is caught between both genres and achieves neither.
Whoa.
Aw. I disagree.
So
I disagree
hard.
too.
So hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Firstly, I don't understand why Sam Raimi decided to make this film a, quote, comedy. The first film was a genuinely good horror film. Sure, the gore was a little over the top at times, and I can see why some would have found it a little amusing, but to actively try to make Evil Dead 2 funny was a huge mistake in my opinion.
No.
There is nothing funny about it, and there is nothing scary about it. Aww.
This person must be a fucking peach at parties. This person has no sense of humor.
I wonder if they like horror comedies in general.
I don't think they
because
do.
It is kind of a niche category.
Yeah, and like, not to go too far into like off the beaten path. Not off the beaten path. Anyway, the first one is definitely a straight up horror film. This movie is kind of like, I think I've heard it referred to as a requel. They basically just redid the first one and slapsticked it up. Reason being, like when they're asking, like, I don't know why Sam Raimi did this. Sam Raimi's a huge Three Stooges fan. So
oh, really?
That's where that comes from. That's where the physical comedy and stuff comes from in this. And like every time that Bruce Campbell, Ash, is getting his ass whooped in this movie, and it's not himself doing it, it's Sam Raimi beating the ever-living shit out of his friend Bruce Campbell. These two grew up together and just beats the shit out of him in all these movies.
That's awesome. And I only know The Evil Dead by this movie. So to me, Evil Dead is slapstick, stupid humor.
And the original trilogy gets funnier as they go on. It goes from horror.
Oh, cool.
It goes from horror to horror comedy to comedy horror. So Army of Darkness is way more comedy focused than this one is.
Oh, judging by the name, I always thought it was like super scary.
Yeah, me too when I was a kid.
Okay. Anyway, back to it. It's really just cheap looking gore and stupidity.
Hell yeah.
I have to admit, I only watched the first 45 minutes because I found it so unbelievably bad.
Okay, we can just stop the review right there. Didn't even finish the fucking movie and they gave it 1 star. I mean, I get it, but whatever.
But there are so many funny bits within that first 45 minutes. Who knows, maybe it redeemed itself entirely in the last half hour, but I highly doubt it. This film has amazing reviews as well. Maybe I'm missing something, or it gained a cult following due to its strange attempt at comedy, or maybe it's simply because it's an old film with good reviews or a result of nostalgia. Either way, I simply don't get it and would not recommend this film to anyone.
Yeah, Sam Raimi doesn't know how to direct stuff and everything. He went on to direct the original Spider-Man trilogy, and then he directed the new Doctor Strange movie. He's done a lot of huge movies. Yeah, fuck this person.
Yeah. Well,
there's like so many funny bits that I just man. Okay.
If you don't like horror comedy stuff, then maybe this isn't for you. And like, it doesn't have nostalgia for me because I didn't know shit about this movie and I thought it was great. So I don't know. All right, here's the 10 out of 10. The movie plot is very simple, which is true.
Yep.
People trapped in a cabin while demons attack them seems simple enough, but the crazy stuff that the demons do to the people make this movie immensely entertaining. The hero of the movie is Ash, and he's already survived the first Evil Dead, and now he's the only survivor. But later on, the owners of the cabin return to it, and then they all need to fight to stay alive. The movie's writing felt very natural in the way that people talked and interacted with another, but that doesn't mean it's without its campy one-liners. The campy one-liners are all memorable and don't hold the movie back. If anything, it helps the movie. Now, the main thing about the movie that holds your attention is that you have no idea what's going to be thrown at your protagonist next. It could be trees attacking the cabin, your own hand getting possessed, or an eye popping out of the skull and into someone's mouth. All of this zaniness really keeps your attention and makes the movie very fast-paced and enjoyable. The main character of Ash is one of my favorite movie characters ever because of Bruce Campbell's performance. He's able to do serious acting when needed, and at the same time, he's able to be campy when needed. What's surprising for the type of movie this is how good the camera work is. You get so many shots at different things that are all edited together perfectly. But the movie's biggest strength would be most other movies' biggest weakness, and that is the flaws in the movie, the little imperfections. These imperfections work in the favor of the movie's campiness, and they make the movie perfect because you can tell that everyone working on the movie put their best effort into it. It showed that they didn't make the movie to make money. They made it to make an enjoyable camp-filled horror comedy that will stand the test of time. This movie is great for its enjoyment, horror, comedy, camp, and all around the inspiration factor that says, make your own movie to just make a movie. My rating 10 out of 10. In the worlds of Roger Ebert, the movie is manic inspired genius, a great time. And in my own words, it's the most original and entertaining horror film ever made. That was awesomely written. Like, I am impressed by that review, and we don't usually give a lot of applause for 10 out of 10s, but that was good.
All right. So before further ado, are we ready to go into it?
Yes.
All right.
Let's go to the crazy whirlwind of this movie.
All right, Tasha,
Let's
go ahead and tell us.
synopsis time. Evil Dead 2, also known in publicity materials as Evil Dead 2 Dead by Dawn, is a 1987 American comedy horror film directed by Sam Raimi, who co-wrote it with Scott Spiegel. The second installment in the Evil Dead film series, it is considered both a remake and a sequel, or a requel, to The Evil Dead from 1981. It stars Bruce Campbell as Ash Williams, who vacations with his girlfriend to a remote cabin in the woods. He discovers an audio tape of recitations of a book from ancient texts, and when the recording is played, it unleashes a number of demons which possess and torment him.
So this film's budget when it came out in 1987 was $3.5 million with an inflation.
It shows.
With an inflation, $9.5 million today. So its box office was 5.9 million, and so for
Still
today,
made money.
So for today, 16 million.
Okay.
This film's influence, though, is unseen compared to a lot of the films that we've talked about in its craft of being made. Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 have been said to be like, there were horror movies before the Evil Dead, and then there were horror movies after the Evil Dead, because like in the 10 out of 10 review talking about the camera work and stuff like that, all of that like POV shot, like flying through the woods and flying through the car and all that, that's invented in these movies.
I knew it.
I'd never seen
Had a
anything.
feeling.
Yeah, I'd never seen anything like that before this. Like, I don't ever remember watching a movie and being like, you're getting a first person perspective from whatever the demon is, but you don't actually see it. And I thought that was brilliant.
They literally strapped a camera to a board and had two people running with it.
Nice.
I literally have it noted as like the Raimi cam or evil cam. Like, that's just how I have it written down. But
Yeah, judging by how much it happened, Drew and I were wondering if it was like new tech, like the first time it had been
it's
done.
new tech, but
they really go for
it's
it.
new tech, low tech. Like, it's just them being
Yeah.
like, well, fuck, I just want this thing to be speeding through here. And that's how they did it. So we get a little explanation at the very beginning of the movie about the Necronomicon Ex Mortis. So the Book of the Dead, the name comes from H.P. Lovecraft, the Necronomicon and everything. It also kind of is taken from Sumerian texts, the Book of the Dead and everything. They're just kind of using that as the idea for this book. And it's talking about in 1300 AD, the book disappeared. We cut to a tunnel shot of a car going through a tunnel, and we see Ash and his girlfriend Linda driving, and it cuts to the bridge, which is a model bridge with a car going across it. These are the things that I fucking love about this, because these movies do all the special effects. You have puppetry, you have miniatures, it's all practical. Like there's very little special like visual effects, but like all of it is like shot. It's like right there. And something that's really neat though is that the people that did the special effects for this have went on to create one of the greatest special effects groups in the world, basically, outside of like dynamic lighting and stuff, like people that work with George Lucas and all that. But it's called K&B Effects, and one of the main people from that is Greg Nicotero, who went on to not write the comic book series, but create the television series The Walking Dead.
Oh.
So Greg Nicotero...
That makes sense.
Yeah, Greg Nicotero is a special effects legend. He learned under Tom Savini, who is like the wizard of fucking gore. He did all the stuff for like the original Friday the 13th and stuff. Like this dude like basically went to Vietnam as like a photographer kind of guy or whatever, saw all this shit fucking happen, and then brought it home, and it was like, well, this is actually how gore would look. And Greg Nicotero learned under him because he grew up in the same neighborhood that they were shooting the original Night of the Living Dead, and it's all from Pittsburgh. It's just this Pittsburgh thing. So when he found out that Tom Savini was in town to be working on Dawn of the Dead, he ended up getting a little job like being his apprentice, and just went on to become royalty when it comes to blood and gore.
Cool. That's
So
cool.
this is the movie, though, that they were just like, yep, we like working together. We're going to make our own group. So we go on, and Ash is playing piano, and he's putting on the moves on his girlfriend at the cabin that they pull up to. So this is also like, for as far as I'm aware, this kind of starts the evil cabin in the woods trope that we get a lot nowadays. I'm not a scholar when it comes. I'm just a fan of horror. But this definitely, if it didn't like start it, the evil possessed cabin in the woods, it definitely like branded it. It's like, oh, it's Evil Dead. Like, just kind of like with The Exorcist, you know? So he's saying like, if they get caught here, we'll just tell the people that live here that the car broke down, and, you know, if anyone asks, like, so this isn't even their cabin. They just kind of broke in.
Yep. And my favorite part is like he's playing the piano, she's dancing in her panties and a t-shirt, and they're just doing their thing. Very cheesy 80s-esque, but it fits for this movie. And he asks if she wants some champagne, and he gets up and he goes and gets it. And he finds a tape recorder at this time, and he starts playing it. And it's a story about the Castle of Candor and finding the Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead.
Yep, it's Raymond Noby, I believe is how you pronounce the last name. And it's his notes about the findings of the Book of the Dead, and that he brought it to the cabin to translate it. And then the fucking tape reads the words that bring the evil forces back. And we're like fucking like, it feels like 5 minutes into this film. It just like, he's like reads it, and you,
Yep.
Unbeknownst to Ash, it's reading.
Yep, it's reading, and he's talking about the Deadites, and then the window breaks, and Linda is gone.
Yep. And then he goes to search for her. And
Ash to the forest.
So fun.
Linda possessed. And he grabs a shovel and knocks her fucking head off.
And you see it.
It's clearly like a Barbie doll head.
Yes. And I'm writing in my notes, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's just like quick. Like go.
And then he buries her like instantly. He's like, oh, I killed you. Now I'm gonna bury you.
And then we fucking get our moon shot. We get a shot of the moon, just in case you didn't realize that it's dark out. It is night.
It's night.
And then we get the Raimi cam for the first time. The evil forces start rushing up, and they get Ash, and they fucking take him on a ride. Ash starts flying through in like this really like cheesy, like spinning around like
and he hits a tree, and he lands in a water puddle with a fucked up face, is what I said.
Yeah. You can clearly see the lines where like the stuff was put on his face.
Yeah, he comes out of the puddle as evil Ash. But then the sun rises, and he doesn't like the sun. He's like,
normal.
Then the fog resides, and Ash is now unpossessed and fucking confused.
Oh my gosh. And then he passes out in the forest, though, like still in that same spot. And this is my favorite thing. He falls asleep in the puddle that he had fallen into with his feet still in it. And I write pruned feet, skin. Is it icky? Because can you think if you sleep there for how long, is your feet going to be so gross?
This is the ickiest part of the movie.
I don't know why my head went there, but damn.
Then we're met with silence as he returns back to the property, and the camera does a 360 of the property off of him, just showing the desolation of everything around him, and you hear eerie sounds in the air. The cabin then has the visage of a skull, and you hear "Join us." And Ash is fucking out of here. He's like, nope. He gets in his car and fucking starts driving off. But damn it, the bridge is out. And
not only is it out, it's all curled up. And
it looks curled up like a hand coming at you.
Yeah. It felt kind of like something you would see in like A Nightmare Before Christmas or something like really creepy. I don't know. It just gave that cartoony effect.
Oh yeah, this movie is cartoony. Like, it's not for children. I mean, I don't have a problem with kids seeing this stuff. I'm not every parent though. Like, I took Wesley to go see Evil Dead Rise, and he was traumatized, but he loved it.
So then the thing returns and is chasing him down in the car as the sun goes down.
Yep, he's like, I have to get out of here. Darkness descends, and Rami Cam begins to chase. Ash is in his Buick, and this car that he's driving in is in every Sam Raimi film. It's Sam Raimi's first car that he ever got, that his dad bought when he was like 14. This car is in fucking everything. They just keep rebuilding.
That's awesome.
Everything.
Yeah, and so then he goes and he hits a stump with his car and he flies through the fucking windshield. And I was like, what is going on in this movie? Like, this is
Very
so
dramatically.
it is. Yeah.
And I love
and then
this
there's
shot.
more strange noises. It's like really weird. This whole movie has a lot of noise, like a lot of interesting.
I love the shot. Like after he shoots out the window, the evil travels through the back window and out the front window and follows him as he gets up and starts running. And it's just one solid shot of this. Like, it's fucking great. So he gets to the cabin again and he starts just running through every single door in this house as the evil just keeps chasing him, bursting through every door. Ash just keeps looking back. He's like, oh shit, it's still there. Oh shit, it's still there. So then he basically gives it the slip. The demonic force is just like, looks around and then just leaves back to the forest. We then cut to Annie getting out of a plane and talks to a guy about pages of a book of the dead she has found and that she is going to meet her father at the cabin to do research. Foreshadowing.
Yeah. I like how they tie that together, though. Like, they just tell you what's happening.
Yep. And it's not 20 minutes. It's literally 2 seconds. And it's like, okay, now we're back to Ash sitting in a chair with the windows boarded up and he hears a noise.
Yep. He's freaked the fuck out. He slowly approaches the door, opens it, enters, and the piano just starts to begin to play by itself. Ash looks at the necklace that he gave Linda earlier and begins to cry. In amazing stop motion animation, Linda returns and dances through the night to Ash's horror. So her body...
That was so good.
Her body pulls itself out of the grave, puts its head back on, and starts doing like a ballerina dance in the moonlight with her head staying motion, like in one spot with the body spinning under it. And it's amazing.
I was like, stop motion. I put that in here. It feels like like Coraline or one of those movies. And it is
very like Tim Burton-esque.
It is. And I loved it because it was just like completely out of nowhere. Like this whole movie is like, oh, this is weird. And then the next thing, oh, holy shit, that's weird too.
So he's looking.
Bring on the holy shit.
He's looking out the window and she grabs through and grabs his head and starts smashing it up against the window. He then wakes up screaming. It was all a dream until Linda's head rolls into his fucking lap. It just says, hello, lover, biting his hand, and he wrecks the house with her head attached to it.
And he can't get her off. It is.
He's just like, and you just keep hearing Linda like,
Yeah, the noises of her are great.
Yes.
And then in a voiceover, you just hear Ash go, work shit.
Yeah.
He then runs off to the work shed, sees the vice, and puts her head in the vice to hold it as he's trying to figure out what to do. Then at this point that her head's in the vice, you see like she's demonically possessed. Obviously, you know, her eyes are whited out, and she said, Linda's voice in the Deadite voice says, even now we have your lovely Linda's soul. And we cut to chainsaw Linda's body just fucking bursts in, headless body with a chainsaw just swinging around. And this is just a puppet on sticks.
I think they panned to where the chainsaw was on the wall, like the outline, like it's gone there and it's gone, and then instantly Linda's there, like I'm gonna fuck you up,
and just slamming into Ash, just like one. And because of this, the chainsaw kicks back into her stump and just starts sawing away on his body. Blood shooting everywhere.
Oh my god.
I love it.
And then Ash gets the chainsaw after she's kind of gone. Oh my gosh. It was so funny.
Linda's face turns back to normal. She says, don't, Ash. You said we'd always be together. he's completely tormented, and then it cuts back to Linda's face as a deadite, and Ash saws that head in half.
Yep.
We cut back then to he's in the cabin with the saw, and then we see a rocking chair in the living room begin to rock. And as he's doing that, he's gathering a shotgun and shells off of the mantelpiece. Seeing it, he slowly approaches it very reluctantly. He reaches out to the chair to stop it, but before he touches it, it just stops. Love that shot. Like, it's so creepy.
And then he goes and he looks in the mirror, and there's his reflection.
Yep.
And then his reflection changes and jumps out at him, and I was like, what the fuck is this movie doing?
Yeah, because he's like looking in the mirror going like, we're fine. We're fine. His reflection comes out, grabs him by the shoulders. It's like, we just killed our girlfriend. We're far from fine. And it just like, what the fuck? He just like comes back. You see that his hand that has been bitten, blackness starts crawling up it, and his hand is now infected. And it's basically going haywire. And he's like, you dirty bastards, give me back my hand.
Best part of the movie.
Yeah, it was great. Linda's blood was black, and so like it just gives you that like they do fit like kind of put it together where like he got bit by her blood was black, now it's infected him, so now that makes sense as to what's wrong with him.
Well, the reason that the blood colors change in this movie is not for any like real like good reason, other than they're like, well, if it's not all red, maybe we won't get an X rating.
Well, I think there's 3 colors of blood in this movie.
There's green blood, black blood, red blood, you know.
Yeah.
So we then cut to Annie pulling up to the bridge, and it's being blocked off by this like hillbilly, like tow truck driver kind of guy. And they find out that the bridge is out, and Bobby Joe comes out and is like asking him like, why do you want to go up to that cabin and everything? And they're like, that's my father's cabin. We just need to get there. And they start haggling over a price and everything. And she's like, fine, you know, as long as you take my bags, like, I'll pay that price. We then cut to Ash Hand begins to beat the ever-living shit out of him with every plate and cupboard in the fucking place.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It's beautiful.
It is.
And this is where I'm saying, like, the Three Stooges element, like the smash, like all that stuff. So Ash is now knocked out, and the hand, which has a fucking voice.
It does. It's its own character.
It has other plans, and it begins to drag Ash by crawling.
Yes.
And it looks like it's trying to get to a weapon to kill Ash, and when it's getting close to grabbing the chainsaw, I believe it is, Ash stabs it with a knife and pins it to the floor. It says, "Who's laughing now?" Because the whole time it's crawling, it's just like, with his hand pinned to the floor, he grabs the chainsaw and starts it with his mouth. And in the craziest thing 10-year-old Nick has ever seen, Ash cuts his own hand off while saying, "Who's laughing now?" Blood spraying everywhere. I remember seeing this and just being like, I don't know what is going on anymore.
When I was watching this in community theater, they had people running around the audience with like super soakers spraying us with blood.
That's awesome.
This is great.
So Annie and company are going through the forest, and the tow truck driver is carrying her bags, which is a massive fucking trunk on her back. He's bitching about it. We cut back to the hand is still alive, still crawling around, and Ash pins it under a dish and then puts books on it. And the title of the top book is A Farewell to Arms.
Yeah, it's so great.
Like just a legit visual pun right there. So Ash turns his back and starts kind of like wondering what to do. And you see the pile of books and dish behind his back just slowly start to escape. Ash grabs the shotgun and shoots but misses. The hand is impatient as he's loading the gun. It starts clicking its nails, waiting. it hits a mouse trap, which Ash says like, "Ha! That's what you get." The fucking hand swings the mouse trap off and flips Ash off. It then starts traveling through the wall, where Ash shoots a hole in the wall, and you see it start bleeding a little bit. And he's like, "Ha!
Oh my god, the scene!
I got him." And then all the fucking blood shoots out of every hole in this house. Talking 55-gallon drums of blood. Just keeps going and keeps going.
And I'll be a huge hypocrite, and I'm usually the one that says it's too much, but that was amazing.
It was.
It was so funny.
The blood then sucks right back into the wall. He's kind of shook by it and everything, and then you hear laughter a little bit. He looks up, and it's the deer head that's now possessed, laughing at him. The lamp is now possessed and is swinging around. Every fucking thing is possessed, and Ash loses his mind to the point where the lamp is dancing up and down. Ash locks eyes kind of with it and starts dancing with it, and when he stops, the lamp stops, and they both cackle. So he's just losing it. The laughter then becomes screams. So he's laughing. He's legit just losing his mind with everything. And then he hears something at the door, and he shoots the door twice. He goes to open the door, and Truck Guy jumps in.
Truck Guy.
Yeah, I don't know if we get a name of him, to be honest.
I don't remember that either. I know we have everybody else's name. Well, no, maybe we don't have the brother's name.
Yeah, the other guy, I can't remember his name. I don't know if they say it, and if they did, I just didn't note it down. But the guy jumps in, tackles Ash, and they whoop that ass. They just start beating the fuck out of Ash. So everything he's been through, then these guys just start beating his ass. And then you see Bobby Joe. Bobby Joe has been shot in the arm, and Annie's like, "Oh my god, where are my parents?" And she sees the chainsaw, which has blood on it, and she thinks that Ash has killed her parents. And they're just like, we'll throw him in the cellar. And into the cellar he goes, falling through and down the stairs. And I believe it's Annie yells down saying, "I hope you rot down there." And the guy, we'll just say the boyfriend, Annie's boyfriend, looking around is like, Ed, there you go. Ed's looking around and says, "Folks aren't here." And she's like, "But my parents' things are." And then he fucking plays the tape. Dumb motherfuckers never play tapes, guys. But this is where you find out this is her father talking about her mom was possessed and that he had to kill her, and he buried her in the fruit cellar.
Dun dun dun.
Henrietta rises from the dirt and comes after Ash. I believe Steph says, like, we're supposed to believe that's a woman that just looks like an old man.
It did until later. And Nick's response was, "It's a bloated corpse. What do you expect?"
Yes, Dad.
God. Act like you haven't seen bloated corpses before, God. But Ash tries to get out of the cellar, and Henrietta just keeps going, "Come to sweet Henrietta." And she yells out one of the most iconic lines. She goes, "I'll swallow your soul." Henrietta morphs into a crazy ass puppet monster and kicks everyone's ass. Ash steps on the cellar door, popping her eye out as it shoots across the room into Bobby Joe's mouth.
Yeah, like it's just one of those things. Like, I cannot believe that just fucking happened again.
So quick.
This is just, oh my god! And I wrote funny, stupid, LOL. That's what I wrote on my paperwork.
It's so quick. Like, he's just like running up the stairs, like, let me out. She's fucking like, her face morphs into all this crazy shit. He's stomping on the door, eyes are shooting out, and you're just literally just like, what? Like, it's so kinetic, just fast. So they lock her down. There. So as they kind of kick her down under the door, she beats against the door, and it stops. And then she gives it one more for good measure. So then we get Raimi's evil cam flying straight to that cabin again. And Ash lets him know, like, there's something out there. That witch in the cellar is only part of it. Could you imagine like all this shit happening? That's your mom down there fucking freaking out. This guy's just like, that witch down there's fucking everything up, and she's not all of it. But Bobby Joe's scared to death, and you start to hear Henrietta singing "Hush, little baby, don't say a word," and she's like fucking with Annie, and this is where
the demon overtakes. I put it as the brother, but maybe it's the boyfriend.
Well, not yet.
Oh, okay.
No, Annie's like, that thing in the cellar is not my mother. Like, she's seeing through its fucking games. And then, Ed gets possessed. So as they come to those terms, we just see Ed's face all fucked up, eyes whitened, and he says, "We want what you have, life." And then Ed and Henrietta just start screaming, "Dead by dawn, dead by dawn." And Ash runs to get an axe, and the dude gets slaughtered. Ed just gets chopped to fucking bits, and we see...
But not before he bites the woman's hair off.
Yeah.
That in itself, I was just like, of all the things you can bite in this movie, you bite a woman's hair off.
And you can tell, too, that, like, the face, like, this... Ed has two faces. It's like his normal face with makeup, and then when he bites the hair, you can tell that whole face structure doesn't move. It's just like the hair's stuck in it, and just like just fucking around. And he just chops him up. There's green blood everywhere, and then the group just kind of chills for 2 seconds. Like, what the fuck? And then Truck Guy is looking out, and he says, the trail that they came in is gone, like the woods just swallowed it up. We then are met with silence and demonic movement and sounds everywhere through the house as their eyes follow it. So all the boards start creaking, everything starts like boom, row, and every time all that stuff happens, you're just following their eyes to the sounds. And you hear like, what the hell was that? Maybe something is trying to force its way into our world, and you see lightning kind of coming from a bedroom. They go to the room, but basically they're just like, Ash, you fucking go. Like, you're interested, you go. And Annie's like, I'll go with you. They go in together, and Annie and Ash walk into the room, and it's just silent. Truck Guy then flies in and says, see, I told you it was okay. Then it wasn't. Father's ghost shows up and says that there's a dark force here and wants to destroy you. Your salvation lies in that book. Kill the evil. Save my soul. And it's just kind of like, what the fuck's that? And Bobby Joe's like, you don't need to be holding my hand or anything like that. And no one's holding her hand except Ash's possessed hand. It's fucking back. And BJ and Bobby Joe, it's just like, fuck this, I'm out of here. She just runs out of the house into the forest. When she runs out, you notice that the trees are alive, and it attacks Bobby Joe with the vines tying her up and dragging her through the woods.
That was a really good scene.
Yeah.
It did really well.
And in the first, I believe it's in the first one, you have this scene, and it's a lot more graphic, and I won't go too much into it, but basically the girl gets like raped by the vines and stuff. And because of that, Sam Raimi was like, that's the only thing I regret in the first one. Like, I think I crossed something there. So when he got the chance to make Evil Dead 2 and stuff, he's like, we're still going to have the forest fuck some people up, but we're not going to go that far. Mm-hmm. So, Ash breaks open the glass that the Necronomicon is in, and, Truck Guy is just worried, like, where's Bobby Joe? And Ash is like, if she went to the woods, she's gone. Like, there's no saving her out there. And Ash asks, like, that picture over there, what is it? And Annie says, oh, that's the one that they call the savior from the sky. And it's clearly just Ash.
A picture of him.
just holding up like a gun or machine or a chainsaw like on a pile of stuff. So it's just him from the 1300s. Yep. Annie then begins to read the Necronomicon about how to force the evil back, and Truck Guy just pulls the shotgun on them and is like, we're getting Bobby Joe, this motherfucker.
I know.
So he takes the pages and throws them in the cellar. I'm just like, you dumb hick. So they're like, no, these pages are the only thing that's going to save us. So he throws them down there, and he's like, now you have no choice. Now move. So truck guy leads Ash and Annie.
I think his name's Jake.
Okay.
By the way.
Jake.
Jake
from State Farm. Jake from State Farm leads Ash and Annie by gunpoint out to the woods, and the trees are still moving. Jake from State Farm takes the lead and is like, Bobby Joe! Bobby Joe! Bobby Joe! The Raimi cam comes flying up. It gets Ash as Jake from State Farm is thrown into the tree. Evil Ash yells out, join us! And Annie runs into the house, and Evil Ash is trying to smash through the doors and stuff, but for some reason can't make it through. Annie finds some sort of ceremonial dagger and starts to sneak through the house. The doorknob starts to jiggle as she approaches it. There's banging. She opens the door opens, and she goes to stab, and she stabs Jake. Evil Ash is back, and he's pissed. Annie screams because he's like banging on the door. She screams, is like, hold the door back, and then just silent again. Annie goes to check in on Jake to see how the insurance claims are going. And this is he's just like, get this thing out of me. So he's just bitching up a storm as Annie starts dragging him. And I was so happy. She's just like, shut up. Annie finds the axe, drags Jake by the cellar door. So stupid. Just leave him here. Yeah. Just lays him there. And then Jake is dragged into the cellar by Henrietta, and Annie tries to pull him up, and we get just all the blood. Just all this
tsunami of blood.
The tsunami of blood just starts shooting up from the cellar door to the point where it's like gurgling out and everything.
Yes.
And Jake from State Farm is no more. He's been got. Evil Ash then shows up and throws Annie against the wall in her best Hulkamania stance, lifting her above his head and then just chucking her. Evil Ash then sees Linda's necklace that is laying there, and it brings him back to humanity. So he sees the necklace, and it's like Ash is able to like fight his way back to controlling this thing, and we're back to normal Ash. Annie then swings an axe at Ash. He says, that thing's gone, and she doesn't care. She just keeps on swinging. He ends up getting control of the situation. He's like, I'm all right. And she asks, like, but for how long? And like, we need to get those pages. So they begin to walk downstairs. But
he does.
Yeah, he begins to walk downstairs, but not before he gets to put the chainsaw on his hand and saws off the shotgun, giving his iconic line, Groovy. So he straps the chainsaw onto his stump. He's got his sawed-off shotgun, and then we cut to the trees are beginning to uproot and crawl towards the house. We then cut to Ash down in the cellar, going down the cellar, and he's like, these pages have to be down here somewhere. He finds page 1. He hears growls. He goes to a door, slowly opening it, and you hear water dripping. Page 2 found. And at this point, it's like kind of like a video game, like just like scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
When he finds page 2, you hear heavy breathing. Starts his chainsaw, and he sees a curtain with like a light behind it. He goes up to it, opening the curtain, and you see it's just kind of like a boiler gauge and everything. There's nothing really back there. Except Jake's skeleton, which comes flying out of fucking nowhere.
Because why not?
Yes.
He then finds the rest of the pages, and it's time to leave. And as he's running up, Annie's like, pages, quick! So he gets the pages to him, but not before Henrietta grabs Ash's legs through the staircase where he falls. Annie starts reading the pages, and it's silent. Then Henrietta flies out of the fucking basement and grabs Annie's hair. Ash is back, whistles at Henrietta. It's like, hey, bitch, basically. And we have a fight. Henrietta's neck extends, and you hear monkey noises, like
Oh my
baboon and monkey noises.
Her whole head and face, like the change in this is so fucked up.
It looks like something out of like some like weird creature that you would like. It's the neck just keeps extending serpentine like.
Well, I said in my notes, and we were talking about this last night, it reminds me of the movie Willow. There's like some weird like dragon scene in there that it like contorts and stuff, and it looks exactly like this. So I wonder if it was somehow associated.
So as this happens and the fight's going on, Annie starts singing Mockingbird, and Henrietta stops, and Ash cuts her head off. As Henrietta's head's laying there, it just keeps going, "I'll swallow your soul, I'll swallow your soul." Ash then responds to this by going, "Swallow this," and boom, headshot.
And I usually hate one-liners like that, but once again, so good.
Yep.
Ash comforts Annie, and the trees begin whooping that house's ass like it owes it money. She says, "I only finished the first page," and Ash yells at her to finish it. We get more Rami cam as it comes flying, and you finally get to kind of see this evil force as it bursts through the door, and it's just this massive monstrosity of a face. And it's like, at the first viewing of it, Ash's hair he's like, his hair turns white on the side, the flowers around him die, and Annie starts to read the second passage. Everything is just breaking loose, lights going everywhere, there's things flying all over, and as she's reading and everything, she's reading the second passage, she's like, and you notice that the hand has come with a ceremonial dagger and stabbed her in the back. The tree bursts through, and this is just shotgunned at you. The tree then bursts through the window, grabbing Ash. And Annie continues to read, lying on the floor, as a portal opens. As she's doing this, Ash is getting pulled by the tree to the evil mouth face thing in the doorway, and he takes his chainsaw to its eye as blood starts erupting out of its face. As the last word is spoken, the evil retreats.
Well, and the demon, though, at this point, it has all the faces on it, like the tree demon, of all of its victims. Like, you see all their faces on there, which I thought was really clever.
Yeah. So, as it retreats and it's quiet for a second, you start to see this portal, and everything in the house starts getting sucked up by this portal. You start seeing flashing lights and everything, and he's holding onto a board, and he's like, "Not like this," and just kind of getting sucked up by the portal. He then gets sucked into the portal, and you are met with flashing lights, and it literally looks like Christmas lights at some time, just sprinkled around. And then it cuts to like a kind of a wide shot, and you see Ash and his Buick fall from the sky and land in a desert. And then knights show up. The first time I saw this, I was like, what the fuck is going on? As he lands, you hear the knight say, "Slay the beast, he's a deadite." And screeching, Ash then jumps up, and you see a winged deadite flying at him. And again, 2 for 2 now. Boom, headshot. The knights stop and go, "Hail, he who comes from the sky to save us from the deadites." And they keep repeating it, "Hail, hail, hail." And then Ash is just like, "No!" And that's how the fucking film ends.
And that's the movie. The end. It is a fever dream of Crazy Town.
It's so good, though.
It is good.
Okay. Anyway. Tasha, what do you give this film?
I give it a 6.5.
6.5? Okay.
Yeah. It's super. It's funny, but some of it, like it's super funny at the beginning, and then I kind of fizzled out as it went on, almost like I was just getting depleted by just how nuts the movie was. But I think it's a solid 6.5. I would recommend it to specific people. It's definitely not one for everyone, like you said. And as far as the movie goes, I personally preferred it as a community theater piece. Like I'm going back to that. That's where a lot of my humor comes from is that what I originally saw, but the movie, yeah, I liked it. 6.5.
Okay, that's fair. This movie was just ridiculous. So I don't even know how to say. Like, I kind of agree with Tasha in the sense, like, you get a lot of your kicks in the beginning of the movie because you're kind of thrown into this world of like insanity, and then after a while your body kind of gets wore out of just like dealing with the immense just feelings that this gives you, because it's crazy, because it's like you don't know what's going on half the time, and then once you realize, you're on to the next thing. So like, my favorite scenes were with the girlfriend and with his hand. So those are my two favorite scenes. And I did like the end with the tree monster. I thought that was clever, but there was a few parts in the middle there with, like, you know, with Billy, Bobby Joe and all that. While it was cool in spots, it was a little, I didn't love it as much as I liked the hand and the dancing ballerina lady. So I'm gonna go with my original score, which I wrote down after I watched it, and I'm gonna say this is a 7.5 for me. I would rewatch it because honestly, this is one of those movies you probably should, because you probably miss a shitload because of how insane it is.
So I'm not gonna go super deep into. I think this movie is amazing. Flat out, like, this hits every single, like, checks every box for me. It's funny, it's overly gory, it's Bruce Campbell is amazing. Like, I love Bruce Campbell. I've read his autobiographies and stuff like that. Like, I just really love him. I love Sam Raimi. I love the first 2 Spider-Man movies he did. Like, everything about this fucking film is great. And I'm just going to make it real short and sweet. That's why it's getting the highest score I've given every film on this podcast. This is getting a 10 out of 10.
Whoa! Oh, holy shit! Okay.
Wow.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, this fucking movie, like, I don't care. Like,
wow. Okay.
Evil Dead is one of my favorite. Like, and I'm trying to.
It's good. I agree.
I'm trying to stay
it's
away
good.
from the fact that, like, there can only be one 10 out of 10 film. Like, this isn't my favorite horror film, but for everything that it does, it's perfect. There are 3 of these movies. You've got Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness. This is my favorite one. I love all 3 of those movies. I was thinking about, like, well, what would I score those? This movie is just, I've seen this movie so many times. There's only a few other films that I've probably seen more than this movie. And this is the first time I'd watched it in probably a couple years, and I was still rolling, laughing, just completely hysterical through it.
But can we agree that this movie would not be made and be as perfect as it is without the hero we have as Ash? So as Bruce Campbell, he completely, in my opinion, makes the film. Like, he has that, like, studly, nerdy, not studly part. Like, he fits that, like, that part that you would see in the 80s, and then he has, like, the swoon-worthy, but then he's not at the same time. He plays a lot of really cool character arcs in this, I think, for as short a film and how crazy it is.
And also, it wouldn't be the same without the hand character.
Yes.
Like, I think...
I agree.
Like, all parts of Bruce Campbell, including his demonic hand.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so good. So, like, they did do, like, a quote-unquote remake in 2013, and it's just straight up, like, horror. And for, like, of the last 10 years and stuff, it's probably one of my favorite horror movies. It's straight horror, and it's visceral and everything, and they don't have Ash. Like, they just were like, we can't recast this, so they just made it new people and everything. It's a cabin in the woods, and we're going to deal with the Necronomicon. And I think they did a really good idea with not trying to recast Ash or trying to bring Bruce Campbell back as an older Ash, which they did do in the television series, Ash versus the Evil Dead, which is on Starz, or was on Starz for 3 seasons, and it follows after this trilogy. It's fucking great. So if you really like this movie and everything, you've probably seen that as well. If this has tantalized you to check it out, there's a shit ton of Ash Williams for you to take.
If you like campy horror movies that are really, really funny and that are batshit crazy, you should definitely watch this movie. Like, if you have not, it definitely hits on all of those parts. So,
all right, Tasha, what's that give us for our final score?
That gives us an 80%, which I think might be the highest. If not, it's the second highest.
I fucking agree. I think that is the highest.
Maybe. I mean,
Scream
was high. I was going to say, yeah. I'll say Scream was like a 79 or something, I think. I think it was really high. Let me look what Scream was. I think I got it too.
As he turns his pages.
Yeah. Scream was an 8 by me, a 9 by Tasha, and an 8.5 by Nick.
It comes out to an 85 for Scream. This is actually second then. Scream was an 85.
Yeah, this is second.
Yeah.
So
But we all agreed we all liked it. I mean, Tasha didn't love it, but she liked it. And so like this is definitely a movie that all of us can at least come out and say, well, it was watchable and we would all say that we would recommend it to the specific people.
yeah, you want something.
I definitely think it would have a higher score had I not had something to compare it
that's
to.
fair.
True. That's fair.
Yeah.
This is a great movie to throw on for Halloween and stuff. It's just crazy good time.
It's just
Have it on in the background.
yeah.
So I forgot to mention it at the top before. This is a movie club. For next week, we are going to be doing Bird Box.
Bird Box. Yeah.
So watch Bird Box on Netflix if you would like to come back and listen to our episode that's coming out next week. Happy Halloween. I hope everybody had a great trick or treat in Halloween. I hope everything's going well for you and yours during the spooky season. For Pot of the Dead, I am Nicholas.
I'm Stephanie.
And I am Natasha.
So come back and listen to us, or else.